have some very diligent members who
Oh, good.
are very eager to take part in that.
Okay. Oh my gosh, Mark, you're so cute.
What is that behind Mark?
It's the Brady Bunch.
Oh.
It's great. That's Greg, I think.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Marsha.
That's great, Mark.
Yeah, but Alice is missing. Is
I
Alice?
know. Hold on, I gotta.
Sandro, I just posted the YouTube link in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can urge people to subscribe. Maybe we can get to 20 subscribers by the end of the month.
I love Mark's
The
background.
YouTube stream has
Isn't that
started.
great?
Balance
I'm going to start the Zoom recording now.
Hey, Brendan, who cut your hair?
My mom.
Very cute.
Thanks.
Send her over.
So many people are giving me compliments on it.
Hey, Mark, could you stop jumping up and down?
I'm trying to get my phone set up so it'll stay.
Is it giving you seizures?
Yeah, seriously. What do you mean, Claude?
Okay, guys, it's 7 o'clock. My whole neighborhood's going wild.
Yay, same here.
Yay.
Woo.
We have an air horn, but I don't think Jean-Luc's going to do the air
Hi,
horn.
everyone.
I
Hey,
love your air
Alfie.
horn.
Great to see
Hey.
you.
Hi.
Hey, Molly.
Hey,
Gail,
Rosie.
Gail will be joining us soon.
Oh,
Okay, great.
Okay.
Hi, Rosie.
She-
Rosie, do you think she'll want to speak? I could call on her earlier, or we could wait. Does she want to?
Yeah, she's planning to give the community board report.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a long agenda, but hopefully we can all just move things along, and our new voting system will help flow.
Hi, Jean-Luc.
Oh, go ahead.
I said Ben's distinguished. He's got a suit on. We're honored.
Ooh.
Ooh, very handsome. All right.
Thank you very much. I put it on for you.
Oh, gee. Flattery will get you everywhere. Thank you.
Ben, I will toast you with Gatorade and a champagne.
Oh, that's nice. I'm gonna ask if that's Ben's real background, because there's all sorts of fancy apartment and office backgrounds you can do. And Ben looks like he's in a nice, that might just be his home.
It's the only clean part of my home, which is out the window.
Is that you, Mark? That's the honking?
That's Town.
Wow, they're
And my
loud.
windows are all closed too. That's
I
how
know.
loud it is. Great.
I don't think you can hear it here, but it's loud here, but the windows are all closed. So.
Yeah, the FTR drive has kicked in the higher gear over the last week and a half or so too. It's
And at
almost-
7, do they honk? Are people honking?
No, the
Oh, no.
noise of the sirens has gone down, but the noise of just regular traffic has gone way up. So it's not normal yet. It doesn't look like rush hour most of the time, but it's it's constantly traveled as opposed to like a weekend.
Yeah. Oh no, not yet.
Dean, you look good in a beard.
Is it all right to wait for like 30?
I've had it for a while, but I need the compliment anyway.
Okay, I think I don't know if we have are we even close to quorum?
You've got 39
Okay,
members.
Okay.
Great.
7.
I was gonna wait at least till 7:03 so the horn
Why
stopped.
can't I see everybody?
Well, we're gonna take this down in a minute. So let's call the meeting to order, and we'll take that screen
Mark,
down
I
so we
like
can.
your backdrop.
Thank
Say
you.
hello to Jean-Luc. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, he's hiding. Okay, everyone mute. Please mute. Please mute. Let's get started. Is that all right? Are we good? Mute, please. Okay. Oh, silence. Wow, that was good. Okay, so here we are again. I don't know, month 2 plus, and hopefully you're all surviving and hanging in there. It's May. You're at the May 13th, 2020 full board meeting of Manhattan Community Board 6. Molly Hollister, Chair of Community Board 6, and calling the meeting to order at 7:03. And tonight we're joined by our Secretary Seema Shah, District Manager Jesus Perez, Assistant District Manager Cody Osterman, and Community Associate Brendan Berth. So thank you guys for everything you do. This is, they did a lot for this meeting, and we've added a new feature for voting, which I hope really it looks very cool. So that should help with the whole situation. So I know you've all been on some Zoom calls already, so I won't go into too much detail, but no one, just please stay on mute and let the speaker speak. If you raise your hand, not physically, I just did that, but if you raise your hand via the participants feature, I'll call on you. And also the other thing is the chat function. That's used for if you can't hear, your audio is not working, something like that, but don't let's not do any business via chat. So it's just against the open meetings laws. And so let's just try to, the chat feature is just for technical difficulties, that type of thing. So let's see, for the members of the public, and I don't know if we have any already signed up to speak, but we're asking you to sign up via the Q&A feature. And let's see, we'll give you about 10 minutes or so if anyone has signed up, and I'll check back in with Cody to see if anyone signed up. But if, we'll have you speak, but please sign up with your name, affiliation, what your topic is via the Q&A. So having said all that, are any questions? No, okay. So the agenda tonight was distributed ahead of time, so would like to adopt the agenda. And if there are no objections, we'll adopt the agenda. If you want to raise your hand, if any questions or object, we'll take a moment to see if anyone's chiming in.
Letty has her hand raised.
Letty, unmute yourself.
I wanted to just make a motion to approve the minutes for the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Let's get a second. Jim?
Second.
Anton, thank you. Okay, the agenda has been adopted, and we'll let Seema chime in here with the taking of the first roll call.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Welcome to today's meeting. I'm just going to ask you guys, if you don't mind, to please verbally show that you are present at today's meeting, because I can't see you and fill in your participation today. So if you could please just verbally say that you're present, that would be really helpful, as opposed to just raising a hand or something like that. Thank you. All right, Kyle Athaide.
Here.
Asia Badi.
Here.
Martin Barrett.
Present.
Elvie Barroso. Here. Joan Berenbaum.
Here.
Matt Bondi.
Here.
Claire Brennan.
Here.
Thank you. Jim Collins. No Jim. Dan
Here.
Oh, was that you, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Dan Devine. No Dan. Beatrice Dismont.
Here.
Janine D'Onofrio. No. All right. Richard Eggers.
Here.
Charles Fernandez.
Present.
Thank you. Andrew Gross.
Here.
Adam Hartke.
Here.
Molly Hollister.
Here.
Paige Judge. Paige, are you on? Yusuf Khalid. Yusuf?
He's going to be late. He said he'd be jumping to on another call for now. Yeah.
John Keller.
Here.
Ian Kelly. Kathleen. All right. Abigail Cruzmark.
Present.
Anton Malner.
Here.
Kavita Matthew.
Here.
Sandra McKee.
Here.
Wells McGauley.
Present.
Richard Mintz,
Here.
Karen Moore. Karen Moore. All right, Philip Napolitano,
Yep.
Rajesh Nair,
Here.
Kevin O'Keefe,
Here.
Reshma Patel,
Here.
Matthew Roberts,
Here.
Jean Santoro,
I'm virtually here.
Frank Scala. Frank. All right. Lawrence Scher,
Here.
Anne Seligman. Anne.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I wasn't unmuting.
All right, thank you. Lou Sapersky. Lou. All right. Sean Sherman,
Here.
Sandra Sherrod,
Present.
Letty Simon,
Here.
Madeline Sims. Madeline.
She may be late.
Okay, thank you. Susan Steinberg,
Here.
Anju Suresh,
Here.
Mark Thompson,
Here.
With the entire Brady bunch.
I could sing to you, but I won't.
Don't, please don't.
Corinne Vanderdonk,
Here.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven. Brian?
Here.
Oh, was that Brian?
That was Brian.
Yes.
Okay. Pam Vassal,
Here.
Ronnie White. Thank you, and Claude Winfield.
He's
Present.
This There is you go.
Paige Judge. I'm here. It was muted.
Okay, thank you, Paige. I got you.
Seema and Kathleen Kelly is on the call. She can't unmute.
Okay.
Hi, Seema. This is Jeannie D'Onofrio. I'm here too.
Oh, okay, great. So let me try to get all of you guys while I can. So that was Paige, Kathleen, and Janine. All right,
Yes.
we're good. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move into public session, and we have a lot of, I see Liz on the screen. I don't see everyone, but Senator Kruger is here, and I know we have a lot of folks, our elected officials here with us tonight. So thank you guys for coming. And I don't know if we do have some people chiming in for Q&A, so we'll get to them. But can we take down that the slide so we could see more people on the screen? Is that possible? I don't know if there's a reason we necessarily need that. Anyway, it would be great. So, and I do have kind of an order here. I think people have different meetings to get to. So we'll go with Councilmember Kalos. Oh, thank you. That's good. Councilmember Kalos first.
Thank you very much. I'm going to do my best to be quick. Thank you for all that you're doing. This is our second Zoom meeting for CB6. It's astounding, and it looks like folks are getting the hang of it. So great. Thank you to Beta NYC. Thank you to Molly, the entire team. I hope you can all join me in welcoming a new member. He is one of the reasons we were able to fight and rezone the Sutton area. He was one of the rent-regulated tenants who refused multi-million-dollar buyouts and threats to his life and his family's life. And he is a huge hero. His name is Charles Fernandez, and I couldn't be prouder to know him, to know people like him, and to have him on CB6. So if you can just join me in welcoming him, and I know he's dialed in, and just so thank you and welcome on your first meeting. I want to make sure folks know about absentee voting. Everyone can vote absentee. It is important. There are a number of people on this call who may be on the ballot. There is presidential, federal, and state primaries that will be on the ballot. And you can now request an absentee ballot online, first time ever, NYC absentee. We hope that you will please do so. And you just make sure to check off temporary illness when you do so. And that is important. The next one is we did a town hall with Congressmember Carol Maloney, who's fighting for us in Washington, and SBS. If you didn't get a chance to see it, you can catch up. It's going to be online on Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else. In my district, we fought to close East End Avenue, which has created a lot of additional space for social distancing as part of the first 7 miles. And I'm coming to CB6 saying, I'm not done yet. We need to close more streets so people have a place to social distance safely. So just off the top of my head, I think Sutton Place South might be a good candidate if there's a public hearing and we hear from Sutton area community. Also a little bit outside my district, but Beekman Place, somewhat quiet, somewhat Tony, and I'm sure there's other parts of the neighborhood that we can close down, but the reality is we need spaces for people to be safe. We have introduced legislation in the City Council for an Essential Worker Bill of Rights, something that we're working with U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren on. My bill in particular would say that if you asked for PPP, they can't fire you for that. If you said, we don't have PPP at Amazon and you stage a walkout, they can't fire you for that. Now, there's NLRB protections too, but those are some of the big things that we're trying to get done. We've been pushing for testing since the start. It's the only way to a normal. I represent Cornell. NYU also has been very successful with Borough President Gail Brewer on trying to create new testing. And what I will say is, and it just went out in our update, there is now widespread access to testing, whether you get it through Quest or LabCorp or urgent care or your hospital or your pharmacy provider, what have you. If you want a COVID test or a antibody test, it should be widely available. If you have any trouble getting access to those tests, please let us know. There's even they will mail you tests to your home. We're doing mask giveaways. I did one this morning with Keith Powers and Assemblymember Dan Court at Dag Hammarskjöld. We've got a whole bunch more coming down the pike. You can find out more at benkalos.com/events. And last but not least, we are facing $6 billion in cuts to our city's budget. And one of the big places that has gotten a lot of attention, including at Borough Board, is SYEP. There's going to be 75,000 children on June 29th who are going to have nothing to do, as if school was enough right now with the remote learning, but they will have nothing, no jobs. And we're going to be telling them not to social distance at the same time as they are now arresting more Black and brown people than anyone else. In my district, people are begging for enforcement of social distancing, and it's just not happening. So SYEP, a number of boards have passed resolutions in support of it. Also Schools Out, which is the after-school program, and similarly childcare. They were going to roll out 3K. They've now pulled it back. And I'm focused on how do we preserve child-centered programs so that kids get the enrichment they need and parents can get back to work. Similarly for our senior services. So we will need your partnership as community boards are charter mandated as part of the budget process. That's my report. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I do see our Borough President Gail Brewer signed in.
Yep. Hi, Gail.
Hi,
So
Molly.
Hi. Let's see.
Anne has a question.
Anne? Oh, you're on.
Yeah,
mute.
hi, yeah, actually, I have a couple of questions. One is real quickly, what time were you at Dag Hammarskjöld? I was at the farmer's market this morning and I did not see you guys.
We were there from, I believe, 9 a.m. to 10.
Oh,
So we were just there to hand things out. But if folks want to partner with any of us, I know Senator Kruger has been going around with masks and the assembly member has pledged to come back. So feel free to work with any of your elected officials. We all have masks, and what had happened is they only offered masks in certain parts of Manhattan. Assemblymember Court and others, we all signed a letter saying we needed it everywhere. And so instead of doing it at the million locations, all the elected officials suggested, they said here, and they gave each elected official 1,000 or 2,000 masks to distribute as they wished.
All right, great. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry I missed you. That was supposed to be the quick one. The other one is about the absentee ballot. Is when you say you can go online and get an absentee ballot, you're saying you can get an application, right? That you then have to mail in?
No, that's the best part. So this is, I think Senator Kruger wrote the law allowing fax in, but the best part is that because of if there's a silver lining, you can go to nycabsentee.com and apply online. You can email an application to absentee.june2020@boe.nyc. You can do the fax application with
Great.
Senator Kruger. I think wrote that law 212-487-5349 in Manhattan. And they are saying that if you call their number 866-VOTE-NYC, they will just mail you your absentee ballot. So
Well, that's so awesome because this is something I really care about. I'm a little curious about the timing. I actually sent in my application for an absentee ballot some time ago, and it kind of feels like it goes into this void because you don't even know if they received it until you get your ballot. And of course, they can't send out the ballot yet because the ballot is not finalized. But and the ballot is not finalized until sometimes like almost a couple of weeks before, especially with what's going on with the presidential primary, right? So I guess my question is like, how do I know that I'm in the system and that I'm actually going to get an absentee ballot?
I imagine if you call the Board of Elections, they will tell you. They do create an absentee ballot list. The other piece is, if you haven't gotten your absentee ballot by June 16th, that is the deadline to postmark the absentee ballot request, so you can go on, try again. But you should get your absentee ballot 32 days before the election. So given that we're looking at June 23rd, that's the last week of May. So if you haven't gotten by then, reach out to Board of Elections, and any of us elected officials are happy to help. But thank you for being as excited about this as possible. I am hoping that my colleagues in the state, Liz Kruger, Brad Hoylman, and Harvey, can get us no-fault absentee, change the state constitution.
Thank you, Ben.
Up by June.
All right. All right. Thank
Honestly,
you.
I have
Oh,
bigger ideas than that, but thank you, Ben.
Okay, so we're going to
And
go
Liz.
move on, and we have next is Councilmember Powers.
Good. Thank
Thank you,
you. Nice to see everybody. I know Gene Santoro's yelling bundle somewhere behind his computer, but nice to see all my colleagues as well. And thanks for all the great work they're doing. I'm just going to do very quickly. I know lots of folks. I'll be quick. First is I just wanted to flag a bill that we introduced today, myself with Councilmember Antonio Reynoso and Borough President and others, introduced a bill which is about composting in New York City, and it's one of the cuts that is being proposed and happening right now in the city budget. But for many of us, it is something I do. I compost, and for many people, it is something that they are disheartened to hear is getting cut. It's a small part of the budget, but it has a meaningful impact here in the city. So we did a package of legislation introduced today that would require, while curbside pickup is still on hold, would require the city to have 3 locations in each community board district that can be used as drop-off locations. That amount of locations exists, roughly the same amount exists today, but we're also trying to make sure there's more equitable access to composting in the city right now, and to give people an opportunity to still have a place to drop it off. So that we calling it the CORE Act. It's the Community Organics and Recycling Empowerment Act. I think I got that right. And it's really something that we did I know the borough president's been focused on. Many of us have been talking about is how to make sure that we have a really strong compost and recycling program in the city that can save us money on the waste side of the cost of wastes, but also make sure our city is doing our part of being good citizens here in the world. So that was introduced today, and we'll love CV6's support for that. Number 2 is I just want to continue to remind people, if you are looking for a way to help or volunteer right now, there's lots of opportunities. I know lots of the elected officials on the call will mention some, but we just are every Monday and Wednesday, we're doing phone calls. I just got off of it, an hour of neighbor to neighbor calls in Stuyvesant, Town, Peter Cooper, and Waterside right now. We did about 1,000 calls tonight. And it's really a great way just to give 1 hour and talk to people and find out if they need anything. Do they need food? Do they need someone just to talk to, contact, masks, resources? If you're lucky enough, you get my first grade teacher, which is what somebody got today. And so anyway, we'd love to have anybody who I know some members actually have done it, and it's really kind of a nice thing. We end it with a clap every time at 7 p.m. Lots of other ways to be involved, whether it's helping do food delivery, helping to do other things. I know some of the others talk about that. And finally, we did pass a number of bills in the council today that were really meaningful and helpful. I won't steal her thunder, but Councilmember Rivera has one bill in there that was really significant and important for small businesses in the city. I'll leave the details out so she can talk about it. and a number of other bills. One of them was capping charges for Seamless and Grubhub and third-party delivery services, because they are still charging really high fees to restaurants at a point where this is the only source of revenue for restaurants and bars right now is takeout and delivery. So we put a COVID cap just during the COVID time, and that should be able to help them a little bit more as they're here. I've been talking about a lot of different ideas, both with the federal government we need to do to change some of the federal grants to get better assistance to these struggling businesses, looking at street space and open space in our neighborhoods to give more capacity to them as they reopen, and a number of other ideas. But we passed a good package today. Thank you to Councilmember Rivera for her bill, and I'll let her talk a bit about it. And I'm going to shut up now because you guys have a lot more elected officials and a lot of business to get to. But really thank you to all my friends and colleagues and constituents who are here and continue to do the work. So thank you. Thanks for giving me some time.
Thanks, Keith. And I signed up for your volunteer thing, but I couldn't make the time, but I'd like to do them more.
We'll reschedule you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Krueger, welcome.
Thank you
I
so
haven't seen you in a long
much.
time. Good to see you.
I know I hadn't been here for a while, and I also spend my life on Zooms every day.
Yeah.
Today, along with quite a few assembly and senators, we spent 7 hours doing our first public hearing by Zoom, all about what's going on for small businesses in New York City and state, what's not working, which is a lot, what might be working a little bit, the problems trying to draw down the federal loans and grants businesses are supposed to be eligible for. So we learned a lot. We also learned everyone who's got a business wants us to reopen immediately because they all want to go back to work, but we have to be smart and careful about it as part of reopening plans and reentry plans. So, there are some counties in upstate New York that have tiny numbers of cases. And on that metrics that the governor created of the 7 metrics that your county would have to meet before you could consider reopening, New York City's not close, but there are several other parts of the state that have already hit 7 out of 7. But discussions today, which will be really relevant for us here in the city, once restaurants are told they could open, we're going to have rules of the road. What are the protections for workers and for customers sitting in a restaurant? I know the Restaurant Association talked about wanting to expand their outdoor space. So that's a very hot topic I think community boards should start to think about. How do you feel about giving restaurants more outdoor space? They're even talking about space in our streets, which granted right now, there are not that many cars on them, but they'll come back just as soon as we're all allowed to get out of our homes. So I'm not sure I can envision restaurants in the streets. Although everyone's so desperate to get outside, who knows, right? We'll sit anywhere just to get out of our homes. But we need to be really conscious of what will be the right way for New York City to reopen, so we don't find ourselves in the position of some of the other countries who I think did reopen too fast or didn't have the answers. And now they're seeing a growth in their COVID numbers again. And that's what we want to not have. I think state legislators' offices are just bombarded every day, maybe my council friends also, with people who need help getting unemployment benefits. And Department of Labor has admitted they don't have it all down. Their computers are too old. They never imagined this many people applying all at once. They're talking about they've hired 3,000 people. They started a new protocol as of a week ago, at least for electeds, to try to help resolve problems for people. We're having a meeting on Friday to see how week one went. I tell everyone who's having problems with their unemployment, we know, but it's not everybody because the state already spent down its unemployment fund of $7.4 billion and got it out the door. So the good news and the bad news is everyone's applying for unemployment and we really are trying to pay them. The bad news is everybody's applying for unemployment. We've already maxed out our fund and are borrowing from the federal government to replenish our fund, as well as using the federal 2 additional benefits, which are really crucial right now. I'm delighted that the city council is working so hard and passed that bill about limiting the amount of money the seamless DoorDash people can charge restaurants, because with all due respect, hitting them up for 30% of the product when all they are is a platform to use to order food is beyond usury. So I'm hoping that law gets signed by the mayor and goes into effect as soon as possible. We try to put out a daily update. If you're not getting them, just go on my website and sign up for them, lizkruger.com. We try to put, everybody's doing these, but we try to do them daily, update anything that's changed at the city, state, or federal level, new information for you to have. Yes, Ben talked about the voting. It's crucial. We cannot vote by mail this June or November because we would need to change the state constitution, which you don't do rapidly, and you need people to vote on in a ballot. So the best we are going to be able to do is the very broad open absentee ballot system that we think we have put into place successfully in the law. And yes, you have to just make sure that if you don't get that ballot mailed to you, that you're on top of it and contact the Board of Election. But don't forget, we're still going to have early voting and regular voting. So it's not you can only vote once. Don't try it a couple of times. That'll come back to haunt you. But there will still be a variety of ways that you can vote in June and then in November. And I've probably also taken up too much time, but do feel free to reach out to me. I think Madeline is on this Zoom as well. My phenomenal staff have all mastered working from our homes and coordinating. And we do town halls every Thursday evening at 7:00 on different issues. Mostly it's been health related. Tomorrow we're doing one on food safety and things you should know about if you're concerned that maybe you aren't washing your food or handling your food correctly in a time of COVID, which is also a health issue. So 7:00 tomorrow night, if anybody's interested. And thank you for giving me so much time, Molly. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Liz. Great to see you. Thank you. Any questions?
There are 3 hands raised: Sandra, Corinne, and Jim.
Okay, and we'll take those 3 and then move the agenda. Sandro?
Thank you, Senator. Actually, I had several people approach me and tell me that they were very interested in participating in tomorrow night's forum in particular. But I also had a few questions from, I guess, the food service industry. And there's some concern about what a reopening plan might look like, and maybe some guidance from the state on what sort of testing or protocols should be in place for the food service industry as they are looking to restart and maybe support either in the street or closer to the kitchen, customers.
Great. So that's one of the questions I brought up at today's hearing, because one of our panels were the restaurant and tavern associations, the upstate version, and the 2 New York City groups. And they are all working together with the State Department of Health to establish protocols that will be produced and shared with everyone in the food sales world, prepared food sales world. I don't know, we did touch institutional food like hospital, corporate, cafeterias, but I think it would be very parallel. And we can certainly make sure to get them widely distributed as soon as we have them.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a great question. Thank you.
Corinne?
Thank you, Molly. Hi, this is more of a request than a question, is that I'm the chair of the Housing Committee, and next week, Monday evening, 3 of our committee members have worked very hard to create a full overview of all the different legislations that are been proposed, both on the federal, state, and city level when it comes to housing and people's problems going forward. with paying their rent. And I just wanted to request, because I believe one of them is yours.
Well, Brad Hoylman and I have a couple of bills together, and then I have a few, and Brad has a few, and quite a few others do. So there is a decent list of bills relating to housing that various of our colleagues are fighting for. We have Harvey Epstein at this meeting too, and Harvey's always on top of it for the assembly. What I don't think we have addressed right now, unless we get federal money, is new money to help people pay the rent. Because what I should have said in my introduction was, and the state is now estimating a $13 billion deficit for the remainder of this year. And the governor will likely by this weekend announce an enormous number of new cuts that will hit New York City very hard, on top of what Ben was talking about with reductions in the city budget, unless the federal government is actually successful in passing a bill that they're now calling the HEROES bill, HEROES bill, HEROES.
Okay.
Okay.
6515?
Yep. And so
Okay.
it has $100 billion specifically for rent and mortgage assistance, that of which 10 billion is projected to be New York's if this ever passes. But at the same time, not getting that program means somebody's projected we need $10 billion to help people with rent and mortgage. And I'm telling you, we're already 13 billion in the hole before you talk about any new programs. So that's really hard. The good news is we have an extension on the moratorium, so no one is facing eviction now. Bizarrely, the longer it takes us to reopen, the later it is before our courts reopen, hence the later it is before anybody could even try to bring someone to court for failure to pay the rent. What I tell everyone, if you can pay your rent, please pay it. There are people who are arguing symbolically we should all not pay our rent. I think it's a huge mistake. Both it puts you at risk for yourself, and you may not need to be at risk, particularly if you do get the unemployment benefits that you're eligible for, plus that $1,200 you got. And so don't put yourself at risk. If you can pay the rent, keep paying the rent. If you can pay a portion of the rent, pay a portion of the rent and tell the landlord, times are bad, this is the best you can do right now. Some landlords, rumor has it, are even negotiating lower rents because they know there are people picking up and leaving the city, and they know that it's not going to be as great as it used to be once we get done with this pandemic for quite a while. But I would definitely urge people to pay their rent if they can. And if you're doing it for symbolic reasons, make sure you put it in an escrow account and it's there when you really, really need it to pay the rent. So don't spend it in other ways. But there will be huge numbers of people who simply don't have enough to pay the rent. And so we will need to be very innovative in how we extend out how long repayments can be as we explore whether there are certain categories of people that we can provide supplemental rent payments for. But the more money the federal government sends us, the more answers I have for the state, the more answers your city council member and your borough president have for the city. So I do think, because the US government is the only government that's allowed to keep printing money in the basement, we need them to keep printing money in the basement and sending it to us.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
Was there one more question? Let's try to move the
Yes.
agenda along if we can be, okay.
It was me.
Let's try to be brief. Okay, sorry to.
Senator, good evening.
Evening.
Last year, Governor Cuomo vetoed a bill that had passed the Assembly and the State Senate that would have allowed people to enter into home mortgage loans for co-op apartments.
Oh,
Now, a lot of
reverse
buildings,
mortgages.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are, a lot of buildings already prohibit it, mine included, but I know that with so many people taking hard hits to their retirement accounts in the last quarter, I'm just wondering if there's any chance of resubmitting that bill, passing it, and getting the governor to sign it again.
We can absolutely revisit it, and I will make sure that it is back on the list of housing bills we're discussing. None of us could figure out why he vetoed the bill. We were working with him. He said in his veto that he was concerned it didn't have enough consumer protections, but we had like all of the consumer rights lawyers working with us on the bill and making sure that it had exactly the consumer protections we needed. We were worried there weren't going to be very many buildings who would allow people to participate. And that's still the case, that even if it becomes law, your building can still say, no, we're not interested. But I think you're absolutely right. It's an option, it's a tool in the tool deck we should have available to New Yorkers who might be able to take advantage of it.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Liz. All right. So well, let's move the agenda. Thank you, Liz, for coming. It's really good to see
Thank you for giving me so much time. Thank you.
And let's see. So, and I know Gail is here. Our borough president Brewer is here. Typically, Brian will speak a little later, but do you want to go now, or I didn't know if you wanted to wait till?
No, I can go now. No, I can do the whole thing, so you don't have to listen to two of us, and I'll be very quick. And I want to thank you, Molly. So there's a few things that we've been working on. I think we're all trying to figure out what's next in terms of testing, tracing, and certainly treatment. And so in terms of testing, I think we do need a lot more testing centers. So we're working on it. There are quite a few in the northern part of Manhattan. We need more in your area. In fact, I got 3 emails today from people asking for Board 6 area. So we're working on that along with everybody else. This contact tracing is very interesting. We were with Columbia University and Congressman Nadler last night for a couple of hours talking about it. And the short version is the city has an email sign up website, and so does the state. They're working together with Johns Hopkins to come up with training and curriculum. They do have different case managers. So if I, Gail Brewer, am identified as having the COVID, the original tracers will find me, but then case management takes over. It's my understanding, however, that they are coordinating whether it's Salesforce on the city or virtual on the state. So I spent hours talking to both teams, and I believe they are working together. The state starts this week, of course, in the 5 upstate counties. And then we don't know when the city's going to actually start, but that's something to pay a lot of attention to in terms of data. And will there be a tech component, or are we just doing human tracing at this moment? The second thing I want to mention is we are very concerned, as we all are, about the future mental health in the schools, something we've been talking about for a long time. So this Friday at 3:30, we are doing a virtual town hall with many, many wonderful mental health experts to talk about mental health, but particularly more social workers in the school, whether it's virtual or in person. And it's something we've been talking about for years. And I think obviously for obvious reasons, it's more important than ever. In terms of the testimony, we have testified before the city council on this issue that you heard earlier about more streets being open. And I know that the council member talked about it, but we're all focused on it. All of the bids in Manhattan, we've met with them. They would really like to have input into space that is on the street that could help them with their restaurants. And I think that's something that you'll be talking about at the community board, because people who are working in the restaurant industry are going to be bringing issues and ideas to your attention. And it's a very different looking at not just quality of life, but the plaza, even the schoolyard, the sidewalk. Be careful with the bus stop, be careful with the bike lane. How do we help the restaurants and at the same time figure out the transportation issues? We're also very concerned. I know you heard about summer youth employment program cuts. There are cuts everywhere. We are very concerned about the issue of cutting the organics. I think you're understanding, you know the issue well. Councilmember Reynoso and I wrote an op-ed on the topic today in Gotham Gazette, and your wonderful council member, Keith Powers, is very much a sponsor of all the bills that would continue the collecting the waste that comes from our kitchen, and most importantly, the Department of Education kitchens, which has been collected over time. So if we keep doing it, then we will end up making money. Right now, they're losing money, but if you stop, we're never going to deal with all the environmental issues. 8 weeks ago, I was really concerned about meal delivery for the seniors. I've been talking about it every single discussion, and I think it's better. At this point, long story short, the best a senior can do in terms of food is to be part of a senior center. Yes, you can call 311, but try to figure out who your senior center is. You can talk to me or to Brian or to Rosie Mendez. Any of us can call to get that senior on the meal delivery program. But that is the best way. Get food and 311 are fine, but you get much more food and you get the kosher and halal, and you have the right proteins and grains if you work with your senior center. I also just want to mention all of the issues of the small business. You heard about some of them. They are extremely concerned about their future, and I hope that's something that you will bring to the board, but also we're going to have a borough board meeting, as you know, coming up at the end of the month, and we really want to think about what does Manhattan look like. Now, what should we want it to look like? What do we want it to look like? We did put in our newsletter today something. I love being a sleuth, a private detective. And I found all the councils that have been appointed by the mayor and by the governor and by NYC and company, because they're not in one place, but now they are. So if you go to our listing today in our newsletter, you will find all of these councils. And it's great that people are having ideas, they're meeting, but you are on the ground. You are the real eyes and ears as community board members. So let's work on that to come up what you want for the restaurants, what you want for the streets, what you want for the parks, etc. Because we need to have your voice as part of the discussion. We are working on endlessly, as you can imagine, on the issues of flood protection measures and obviously all the issues in the park east side, ESCR as we call it. And we sent a letter recently, I think you got a copy, requesting that the city move forward. God forbid there should be a hurricane and no flood protection for Community Board 6 or any other board. So those are some of the issues that we've been working on. You know that all of the issues regarding enforcement of the plastic bag ban, we're not going to wait till June 15th. Thank you very much. You are really playing a huge role in our very challenging time.
Gail, thank you very much. It's like all the work you're doing is amazing. We are doing this summer youth employment program. We're doing a resolution with all the Manhattan chairs, all the Manhattan boards. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's see. So I have Senator Hoylman is next. And that's it. Yeah. Welcome, Brad.
I'll be super brief out of respect for your work tonight. Thank you, everyone. Good to see you virtually. As Senator Krueger said, and first, let me just say, stipulate, best colleagues in the business here in Manhattan, the borough president, Councilmember Powers, Councilmember Kalos, Senator Krueger, and everyone else who's on the line too. I know Councilmember Rivera and Assemblymember Epstein are on. Wanted to update you with a couple of things. One, as Senator Krueger alluded to, she's the finance chair in the Senate. She knows better than just about anyone. The budget in the state of New York is in dire financial distress, anywhere from $15 to $17 billion in the red. How do we make it up? Well, we're hoping for federal aid, and I know Congressman Maloney and Congressman Nadler are fighting for that. The House introduced a $3 trillion budget package just last night. We're going to need every penny coming, to New York that we can get. We have a serious revenue shortfall. Businesses are down clearly. The subway ridership is down over 90%. How do we keep our essential services going? I know they're struggling with this at the city level. In a few days, the governor's probably going to issue a revised budget projection, an adjustment based on the executive powers we gave him during our pandemic budget negotiation. We're going to have to look at that hard. If we don't get the federal money, we're going to have to come up with revenues, because we're looking at, $10 billion of cuts or more. And somebody's got to pay for it. We cannot cut services to the bone. We cannot cut mass transit or infrastructure. We will hasten the demise of our economy if we continue to cut. So there's got to be new revenue streams identified if the federal government doesn't come through. So I'm part of a revenue group along with Senator Krueger looking at that idea. Want you to know that we're thinking about that very seriously. I was speaking to my daughter's elementary school principal yesterday. They're looking at major cuts in public education. They're all very fearful of what that's going to look like in the fall, as am I. So that's the first thing. Secondly, before the economy gets back up and running, we got to get our health back in order. And the good news is, I think we're headed that direction. I think everybody's watching Governor Cuomo's morning Love Hour. I think some people are calling it. It's very informative. The deaths are still, though, close to 200. It's really frightening. Just yesterday alone, and now there's a new inflammatory condition that's linked to young children. That scares the bejesus out of me. I thought our kids were going to get, I thought our kids were going to evade this illness, but close to 100 new cases of this Kawasaki-like illness among children. We have to most certainly keep an eye on that. And then you have, the lack of testing, and then the antibody testing, which is so confusing, and which shows how much we don't know about this illness. The New York State antibody tests, I went on the FDA website and looked at the rankings of the different antibody tests. If you have a positive test under the New York State test, there's a 20% chance that positive test is in fact negative. So that's really disconcerting if we are using the antibody test to make healthcare decisions. I don't think we are, but we have to make sure, while it's giving us a good, perhaps an overall snapshot of the illness and where it's spread and who may have the antibodies, you can't make individual decisions on whether you test positive or negative on an antibody test. Everyone just has to assume, I believe, that they take every precaution available. On that front, we're working with our colleagues to hand out PPE. Councilmember Powers and Assemblymember Epstein and I are doing some drop-offs. If anybody needs masks or hand sanitizer, you can reach out to my office, email me at bradhoyleman@gmail.com. We had some legislative victories and initiatives. One is we wrote to the MTA along with our East Side colleagues to try to get more service on the M34 because healthcare workers need to take it across the island. MTA agreed, so now we're getting more morning service on the M34. Senator Krueger mentioned a bill that she and I carry. It's called the Tenant Safe Harbor Protection Act that I introduced. It gives tenants in their homes an additional 6 months after the pandemic is declared over to start paying rent, to get healthy, to get their lives in order. I can't imagine what it's like for a tenant who is sick or caring for someone who's ill, who has lost their job, is trying to pay their rent, and is worried about eviction. That is the perfect storm of a nightmare, and we have to make sure that tenants have time to get back up on their feet, as well as commercial tenants too. That was our hearing today that Senator Krueger mentioned to you, 5 hours. Found out some really interesting things. One of the things I'm interested to know, and I'd love to hear from the community boards, is, once these businesses once we reopen, it's not going to be snap and everyone's back to the status quo. Businesses are going to need to get back up on their feet. I want to hear from community boards about the notion that the alcohol to go program might be extended beyond the end of the pandemic. That'd be really interesting. Some business owners are asking us about it. They mentioned it at our hearing today. I'm thinking of introducing a bill statewide that would allow some sort of procedure to have that extended beyond the pandemic. Give these businesses a little bit of a leg up, but obviously we have to be concerned about our neighbors and our community boards. So that's first and foremost. And then finally, I wanted to say to you that we've been hosting Zoom town halls. I've been doing it with Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal's On Sunday, I've had some interesting epidemiologists, healthcare experts, survivors. Sundays at 8 p.m. Thank you very much. Sam Vasquez from my team is on the phone. He's been basically 24/7 unemployment insurance expert, as all of us have. We hope that the unemployment insurance portal is improving. If you have an outstanding uninsurance employment claim, please let me know, and we will do our best to work on it. I think some of you know David Kruger, who used to be in my office. The sad news is that he left my office. The good news, good for us, is that he ended up in the Department of Labor. So he's our insider in the Department of Labor. We've been, I've been calling him personally on cases. Let me know if you have a friend or neighbor who needs unemployment insurance. It's something that is crucial, and we have to make sure that people are able to, get food, feed their families, and get healthy. That's what it's really about, getting healthy. Thank you, Molly. Thanks everyone for your service. It's great to be here tonight.
Thanks, Brad. Really appreciate it. All right, Assemblymember Empsteed. Harvey.
Thanks, Molly.
Hi.
And hi, everyone. Good evening. Sorry that a lot of talking here. First, at the hearing we had today, I think it was great that we had our first virtual Assembly Senate hearing on small business and COVID issues. A lot of issues came out, especially for small businesses. There's another hearing next week on the racial justice problems around COVID and the opportunities we have. I think if people can join that, it'll be great. We, both Brad and Liz mentioned the budget crisis we're in. The governor's going to release some information tomorrow over the weekend, proposing either between 10 or $13 billion in cuts. And the only way forward really is federal dollars and new revenue from the state. We've been pushing on the Assembly. I know Senator Kruger and Senator Hoylman on the Senate side about new revenue sources, millionaires and billionaires taxes. We need to move that forward. My youth council released a report this week, and hopefully people will take a minute to look at it. It talked about the MetroCard issues and how so many young people, the limitations on the MetroCard hours are really hurting them and their family. It's a great report. I'm sure Jackson can share the link. I want to do a shout out to Jackson, who's been my representative to this board, who does amazing work. So great. He does a great job. We had a Zoom town hall last week on small business issues. I think there are lots of problems that our small businesses are facing. And if people have questions, they can reach out to me or other elected officials. I think earlier Keith had mentioned about volunteers. We need volunteers every day, and people can volunteer from their home, like Keith said, to make phone calls. People can volunteer, like Brad mentioned, handing out PPE that we're putting together, making the PPE packets. We're doing food deliveries, lots of the ways that people can volunteer. So you can reach out to my office or any of the other elected offices. The unemployment problems that we're all hearing, we all have hundreds of cases of backlog unemployment. People have the need for unemployment and having some problems. They should reach out. The mayor's office had reached out a couple months ago about EV charging stations for electric vehicles. And they had said that CB6 hadn't had a position at the time on it. We'd love that CB6 make a positive statement around EV charging stations in CB6, so people who do have plug-in cars can plug in their cars. And if we care about the environment, the third largest contributor to climate change is cars, not today, because we're not driving, so and there are no public charging stations in Manhattan. And I'd love CB6 to kind of be on the forefront and support charging stations to go into our neighborhood.
So Harvey, that's on our agenda tonight. We're voting on that tonight.
Great, Molly. I hope you all vote yes, and something I really care about. And the last thing I'll just mention is just the stuff around housing. We are in a housing crisis. The governor did sign an executive order extending the eviction moratorium for some tenants past June 20th. The moratorium is extremely narrow, and I'm really disturbed by it. And I and other members of the state legislature have been pushing the governor to have a broader moratorium. This may mean on June 20th, there'll be hundreds of thousands of eviction cases started against tenants, and then tenants will have to go into court to prove that they got unemployment or COVID related. It will exclude all our undocumented New Yorkers. It's a huge, huge problem. And so while I appreciate that he did some extension, I think the extension he did was far inadequate to help the most struggling New Yorkers. And I'll just say one last thing. While I love Senator Krueger, I do think that people have a right to go on rent strike. It's in the statutory right in New York State. I'm not saying that people should or shouldn't, but people should make their own decisions. And us as electeds should support people who make those decisions, whether they can choose, whether they pay or not. I don't know their landlord-tenant situation. So I want to respect people's rights, to right to organize, the right to go on rent strike. It is something that it is an important right that we have in New York State. And I want to make sure that we do not do anything to interfere with it. We've heard of dozens of stories of tenants being harassed and intimidated by landlords because they're not paying rent. And so I want to make sure that we protect those people and their right to do what they want to do. Thank you all for all the work you do. I really appreciate it, and have a good evening.
Great, thanks, Harvey. Okay, so next on the list we have, oh, I think we lost Carlina, Councilmember Rivera, but we have Katie Loeb instead. Oh, she's there. I was looking for either of you, but there you are.
Yeah. I'm
Hi.
here. Carlina had to go to a health town hall, but thank you all for having me. It's been a really busy couple weeks in City Council. Today, City Council passed the first package in the COVID relief bills, which contained Carlina's bill to for personal liability in commercial leases. It's a little known issue, but owners of LLCs oftentimes have to put personal liability on commercial leases, which can leave them personally bankrupt, never able to open a business again, in deep debt. So very glad that we could pass that along with other really important bills to bring relief to small businesses and their owners. On Friday at 10 a.m., Carlina is going to be co-chairing a hearing with Councilmember Mark Levine about contact tracing and testing and how the city is going to be implementing this program. It's incredibly important for reopening. It's incredibly important for keeping New Yorkers safe and healthy. And we need to make sure that we're doing it right. And City Council is going to be having proper oversight over this instead of, political games from the mayor. It's also budget season. We've heard a lot about how awesome the budget's going to be. New York City is no exception. There's about a $7 billion loss in revenue projected by OMB. Different sources say different things, which is leading to big programmatic cuts. But not all agencies have been treated the same in the mayor's executive budget. The NYPD hasn't been asked for any cuts, whereas the Department of Youth and Community Development is seeing almost a 40% cut in their budget, eliminating all summer youth program, SYEP, Compass, Sonic, the Beacon programs, and public pools are going to be closed. So we're going to have a real problem this summer, and we can't leave our youth behind just because of this crisis, especially because of this crisis. So Carlina's fighting really hard for an equitable budget that that makes sure that we're looking forward to the future and not just over policing communities of color. Also, the Open Streets program is happening. Carlina was very excited to introduce a bill, but it looks like the mayor is just running with it. So if you know any community groups that want to open up some streets in the neighborhood, we do think this would be a great opportunity for restaurants to expand into the streets, maybe sell some drinks to go. I'll leave that up to you guys. And as a lot of other electeds have said on this call, especially Senator Hoylman and Assemblymember Epstein, we've been, and Manhattan President Gail Brewer, we have been delivering thousands of meals, I think 3,000 meals in the past month, going directly to senior buildings, NYCHA developments, Section 8 developments, several in Community Board 6, the Phipps buildings, Strauss houses. So it's been a big undertaking, but probably one of the most important things that we could be doing right now is fighting food insecurity. And City Council's also ensured $25 million in additional funding this year go to that, so we can really address the situation citywide. And the last thing I have is, if you can't get enough of this kind of update, on every Tuesday from 7:30 to 8:30, Carlina is going on Facebook Live. She's been talking to some really interesting guests like Dr. Katz, who's the head of health and hospitals, and also some housing activists, Sia Weaver and Justin Lamort, to talk about housing rights. We've had a child developmental psychologist on to talk about social emotional learning. So you can see all that at Facebook, facebook.com/Councilwoman Carlina Rivera, and tune in on Tuesdays for more.
All right, thanks, Katie. All right, so it looks like Andrew may not be here yet from the mayor's office. We'll go to Taylor from, we have this fancy timer, isn't that nice? We're supposed to be timing people. So we'll do this for the public too. We have a few public members wanting to speak. So this is kind of a new thing. But Taylor from Congresswoman Maloney's office. If she's, hi Taylor.
Hi. Hi, everybody. So we've been doing a lot, so I'm going to try and speed through these updates. If I miss anything, everything I'm saying is also on our website, so it's all there. Today, the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Crisis held their first briefing with key experts on the requirements for safely reopening. Today, also, within the past hour or so, the Senate finally passed Congresswoman Maloney's Never Again Holocaust Education Act. That's very exciting. Yesterday, the HEROES Act was introduced in the House, which includes funding for the Postal Service, reforms and oversight provisions for the 2020 census, and provisions to protect the independence of inspectors general, as well as a ton of funding. 1 trillion of the 3 trillion, I believe, is specifically for states and localities. So that's good. And the Congresswoman will be joining the New York delegation and introducing the governor's proposed American First law to help prevent corporate bailouts following the pandemic. Last week, the Congresswoman introduced the Student Loan Forgiveness for Healthcare Workers Act. Additionally, she's co-sponsored legislation to provide emergency rental assistance, sent a letter to the president asking him to authorize FEMA to cover the cost of New York's emergency response to the coronavirus pandemic, demanded large corporations return funds that were intended for small businesses, has been continually calling for the FDA to loosen their restrictions on plasma donations from men who have sex with men who recovered from the coronavirus, joined Representative Porter in introducing the Accountability for Acting Official Act, launched the Postal Preservation Caucus, sent a letter urging NYCHA to improve their standards of disinfecting buildings and distributing PPE, called on the Speaker to include assistance to cultural institutions such as museums and libraries in the next recovery package, hosted a virtual census press conference, which you can see on her YouTube channel, hosted a census briefing in the Oversight Committee on the impact of COVID on the census. And I could go on, but like I said, it's all on our website. And as always, you can reach me by email. If you don't have my email and need to reach us, we have a joint office email going, which is urgentny12@mail.house.gov. This email and the office voicemail get checked daily, usually by me. So you can always reach us that way. All right.
Thank you very much, Taylor. You guys, I know you guys are really busy. I see Carolyn everywhere. It's a very busy time and stressful time for everyone, but doing a lot of good work. So, all right, so let's move to Luke, who is filling in for Scott Stringer's office, the comptroller's office. Luke Wolf, who's filling in for Michael Stinson, who's on paternity leave.
Hi, everybody. As Molly said, my name is Luke Wolf from the City Comptroller Scott Stringer's office. Filling in for Mike for the next, I guess, probably 2 meetings as he is on paternity leave. But I just briefly want to say some of the work our office has been doing around coronavirus. So the first thing I want to mention is we, like many of the other electeds, have put together a coronavirus resource center. It is available in English, Spanish, and Chinese on our website, and has a lot of great information for seniors, tenants, parents, really a whole large swath of New Yorkers should be able to turn there and find relevant information, programs, and resources for them. We've also been holding twice weekly workshops focusing on minority and women-owned businesses to help them through coronavirus. And we launched a phone banking campaign to help return wages to workers. We have millions of dollars of unclaimed wages, which we really want to get back in New Yorkers' hands right now because they need the money now more than ever. Some of the other things we've been doing is last week we released our most recent budget analysis. So we are looking at about a $9 billion gap at the city level on top of what all the state elected said about the state level, which is about twice as deep as the Great Recession. So really, really, of course, awful grim numbers economically right now. We project about 900,000 New Yorkers unemployed, which is about 1 in 5 New Yorkers in the workforce. And really, as so many of the elected said, the federal government needs to provide the source of the money and the capital right now to plug the budgetary holes to make sure that much needed services are not cut, especially now more than ever. Some of the other coronavirus related work we've been doing is we released 2 comprehensive reports. The first was on who are the city's frontline workers. So who are the people who work in hospitals, grocery stores, delivery, and all the other services that we need right now. And the second was outlining all the disparities in housing, healthcare, air quality, food access that really have made certain communities much more vulnerable to the virus than others. And for each of those outlined certain steps we would like the city to take to make sure that those disparities are reduced and equalized so they do not have the same impact during future crises. Lastly, 2 other things that we're really pushing for are, 1 is a federally funded victims compensation fund, much like after 9/11, to make sure that victims and their families are taken care of after coronavirus. And number 2 is we really want to make sure that we take steps to protect workers during this time. And that means access to PPE, that means access to childcare, and really making sure that the people who are on the front lines right now are taken care of. I will put my contact information in the chat in case that you do need to reach me for any reason. We are working around the clock, although we are working from home. And thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak during this meeting.
Nice to meet you, Luke. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next month, or sooner, I'm sure. All right, so Assembly Member Dan Quart's office, Rebecca Grigas.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Rebecca.
Rebecca. Hi, from Assemblymember Dan Quart's office. We hope everyone is still hanging in there and is healthy and safe. Nothing major has changed since my last report, but I'll mention some things we're doing and some events that are going on. As you know, this morning, Assemblymember Quart, along with Councilmember Powers and Councilmember Kalos, handed out close to 100 face masks at Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza to people who are attending the farmers market. Again, this Friday, the Assembly member will be at Carl Schurz Park at 9 a.m. with Assembly member Rebecca Seawright to hand out more masks. They will be located at East 86th Street at East End Avenue, adjacent to the park. If you guys have any questions about the location or anything else, please reach out to our office. We are continuing to assist constituents with unemployment issues. If you're someone you know who lives in our district is still struggling with completing their claim, aren't receiving benefits, or any other problem, please call us at 212-605-0937 or email courtd@nyassembly.gov. And lastly, we encourage everyone to please fill out the census. We've been told that our district has one of the lowest response rates in the borough, and we, of course, want to see that change. We understand that some constituents are out of the city or the state right now, but please try to fill it out online and check your mail for any postcards or any correspondence from the U.S. Census Bureau. And of course, if you need assistance, let us know and we can help you out. And that's all I have for tonight. I hope you all have a great meeting.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. Rebecca's followed by, let's see, Philip Ellison from Jumaane Williams' office, the Public Advocate's office. Philip?
Hey, good everyone. This is Philip, the Manhattan Borough Advocate, also on the Technology, Data, and Development team at the Public Advocate's office. I hope you all are doing as well as you can be during this time. A couple of key updates, and I'll be brief here. One, the Public Advocate, our office is really happy amongst this trying times that today or yesterday was the implementation of the ban on pre-employment testing for marijuana. We know that communities have been affected and people are deterred and careers have been stopped due to pre-employment testing of marijuana. And the Public Advocate, Jumaane Williams, sponsored that a year ago. And so we're just happy for the City Council or for the city during this time for that to kind of be in place now. That's a win when we think about marijuana justice and equity and then for the economy. Secondly, also would like to bring to light. The Public Advocate continues to support our recovery plan that really thinks of the bills that Senator Krueger and other folks who have been on this call, their electeds on this call, and calling for rent relief, right? And pushing the governor and being in the narrative in the city to be thinking about rent relief for everyday New Yorkers. Also, what we have seen is the Public Advocate has been out in the media. We've been highly concerned with the kind of the disparities around public health, but also policing and social distancing. He was actually one of the first electeds to be out here when we think about policing and who does police and how do we police social distancing. That's been a concern, and we continue to see through these videos and pictures and accounts that there's still a lot of work to be done, and he's been pushing the mayor and having a dialogue on that. So we do think that's really important here. Another element is contact tracing. Actually, the Public Advocate and I personally worked with our Deputy Public Advocate of Health and our CTO on contact tracing and spent a month really looking at the public health law and in some cases technology elements to contact tracing and what does that mean. So last week we had a number of national figures across tech, health, and law, alongside, very thankful that Gail Brewer, who's been a leader on public data for a number of years, joined our town hall. We did release a letter to the mayor and governor on our concerns from the data protection and privacy concerns, and there is a back and forth right now between if our data going to be held, or the people's data going to be held in the Department of Mental Health or in health and hospitals, and what does that mean when it comes to contact tracing, but also concerns of hiring and what are the barriers when we look at a model like California where lawyers, AmeriCorps volunteers, you do not have to necessarily have a certain biology degree to necessarily be an effective contact tracer when we think about economic opportunities to solve this problem. So those are things people should be thinking about. I'll make sure that we share the letter and to the mayor and governor, some of the articles written and the video to the contact tracing town hall that we did last week with this CB community board, so they can share that out. We also, I'd say,
that's loud.
I can't see anything. So if that's it, that's my last update on that part. So I'll make sure I send that information to CB6, and I thank you for your time.
That would be great, Philip. Thank you so much. That's good information. All right, so we do have one other Assembly Member, Gottfried, and I think Reese Pear may or may not be on the call still, but they just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the Assembly Member Richard Gottfried's office they're operating remotely. His staff is busy helping constituents. The contact information is Office of Assembly Member Dick Gottfried, 212-807-7900, Godfried, GOTTFRIEDR at nyassembly.gov, and Twitter and Facebook and so on. And I think that's it. And he says, thank you. So that's from Assemblymember Gottfried's office. And I do believe, unless we have anyone else, let me see what just some goofy text from people. I think we still don't have Andrew, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so let's move forward. We do have, I know we had 2 people sign up to speak, but maybe Stanley, your question may have been answered with the open streets or some of the streets questions. So we'll go to Will Inez, who has a question on housing.
Hi there. Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. All right, awesome. I was curious kind of what the community board's jurisdiction was specifically with the housing priorities that we're going to focus on. So this might be better for the Monday meeting, but I was curious kind of what our top 1 or 2 priorities were, just generally, and how we're going to go about them.
Yeah, I would say please join the meeting on Monday night, and we're talking rent relief. And so there are some resolutions around that. And, we're one of our main focuses are affordable housing. And, so we're really covering off on both of those things in a big way. And, and that's our, in our budget and within the committee and so on. But yeah, if you want to join, Will, and we could talk about. I know I've seen your name, and maybe we've met before, but it'd be great. Let's talk about having you, come as at least as a public member or something. I know you want to be more, more part of the board. So, Corinne, do you have
Yeah, that would
anything to
be
add? I don't know if I'm Corinne.
No. I mean, it's you. You said it well, Molly. Our main focus is, create to encourage our electeds and the powers that be to create an equitable and affordable housing in our community.
So yeah, please join us on Monday night, Will. You obviously you saw the date and time and so on. So come see us.
Will do. Thank you so much, Molly. And thank you,
Okay.
Corinne. I'm really interested in participating more. Sorry for everyone's time. Really appreciate it.
No, great. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks for being here. Okay, so let's move to, I think we can go into the business session. Is that?
Stanley Rowe has raised his hand.
He would like to.
Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I know I said the question was answered, but I'm not sure who that was from. Stanley Rowe.
Hi, Molly. Thank you for recognizing me. Appreciate it. The open streets conversation. Honestly, I apologize. I didn't quite understand where we are with that. I know there was a resolution pending, and could you just clarify what the status is? I might have misunderstood what was going on earlier in the meeting.
You'll see if you can have, you're able to stay on, we'll be voting on a resolution in the next session. So in the next 30 minutes, I hope, we'll be voting on an open streets resolution. And we have locations included in that. And I don't know, I'm imagine Cody or someone, we can put these resolutions up on the screen each time, or we don't have to necessarily if they're not controversial, but maybe that one, because it does have all those locations. And you can see that we haven't voted on it yet, so it's not public, but after tonight, once we vote on it, we'll send that out to the city council. And we do have a lot of locations. We have a lot of a few schools interested in helping with open streets and closing off some blocks. But we need everyone's help. So we need neighborhood groups, schools, bids. We don't have a lot of bids in our district, but we're advocating for open streets.
Okay, thank you very much. I understand that. My question is the open streets. Will there be a chance for people to comment on whether it's right for neighborhoods or wrong for neighborhoods, or it's unclear which areas are included and which are not.
So yeah, I would say stay on the call, and we're an advisory group, and so we'll send this to our city council and obviously to DOT, and they'll review these street locations and make sure they're safe and they're appropriate. And I think if there is some concern with a building or a neighborhood, we'll all take that into consideration. But this is just a recommendation of a lot of locations we've included, and it's not a done deal. It'll go again through city council, so they'll have their say, and DOT.
Okay, I'll be here. Thank you very much, Molly.
Okay,
I appreciate
thanks,
it.
Stanley. Okay, good. All right, thank you. All right, so let's move into the business session, and we want to adopt the minutes of the April committee meeting. And if there are no objections, that we can just approve those minutes. If you don't need to, if you have an objection, you can raise your hand, but if I don't see anything, no hands raised. Okay, so the minutes are approved from the April meeting. And chair's report, I'll be very brief. I have good news. I know it's been a really hard time for a lot of people, and a stressful time, but we have our former budget chair, community board member Pedro Carrillo, and his wife Tiffany Townsend had a baby boy yesterday. So Pedro, I don't know how many of you know Pedro, but yeah, it's really exciting. And he sent me a picture, and he's so cute. He has lots of hair. Anyway, they had a baby boy yesterday morning, and his name is Pedro. And I think it might be Pedro Jr. I don't know, but his name is Pedro. So Isn't that amazing? Yeah, I'm really excited for them.
Screen share, screen share.
Oh, I should do that. I should do that. You're right. And then the other big news is that we have 4 new people, 4 new board members, and I think they're all on the call tonight. We have Anju Suresh, and I see Anju here somewhere. Now I don't see her on the screen, but I know she's here. Sean Sherman, Charles Fernandez, and Madeline Sims. So I don't know, maybe if you guys just all want to say hi, because then your faces will pop in. Are you all, I don't know, I know that a few of you are, I saw Sean and.
Welcome.
Hey, everybody.
There's Sean. Hi, Sean.
Good to see you all. Glad to be here.
Can
you see me?
Oh, yes. Hey.
Hi.
And then is Madeline here? Maybe she could, maybe she was unable to join. And then Charles is here, I know, by phone. He doesn't have a screen, but so we'll officially, I mean, I'm really thrilled to have you guys. And so we have scheduled time to talk this week, and we'll do an official swearing in when we're all together again. I was teasing in that we would do it in our next meeting with in June, and Cody and Jesus laughed me out of the Zoom meeting. But you know, in September, we typically kind of do a fun ritual of swearing people in. But, you know, you're officially on board. We'll get you up to speed and get you into some committees very soon, but welcome. We're really, really excited to have you guys. So, yay. And then that is all I have. So isn't that so brief? And I will move on to Jesus Perez, District Manager's report.
All right. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a nice evening. As you all know, CB6 launched its website, its new website, a month ago, and we appreciate those board members who gave us positive feedback, and also agency reps who've given us positive feedback. It was a lot of work and many months of work, and we're very proud to have such a nice looking and innovative website. Speaking of that website, please take a look at our newest page. It's a Zoom guide for CB6 members. In all likelihood, it will be a while before it's safe to return to in-person meetings. So being comfortable with Zoom is very important. On this page, you'll find useful information, best practices for participating in Zoom meetings, and solutions to potential problems, like what to do when you lose your panelist invite, which seems to happen with some regularity. New members, I echo Molly's welcome. To help you in your CB6 education, I invite you to take some time to peruse our new website. It features a lot of useful information, as well as searchable databases of our resolutions and meeting minutes. If you've ever wanted to live at Waterside Plaza, you might get your chance. Waterside has just opened up a waiting list for affordable apartments there. So go to our website, cb6.org, and to find more information on this opportunity to live at one of our district's most distinctive residential complexes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jesus. Brian, for the treasurer's report.
Good evening, everyone. Our OMB's budget summary report for our board for April 1st shows our personal services budget for the year is currently marked at $221,222. We have a balance of $42,602 with $174,619 spent or obligated. The current budget for other than personal services, excluding our rent, is $196,718. This figure contains $110,185 of our retained street fair money, and our remaining OTPS budget is $86,533. Our remaining uncommitted balance of that money is $31,233, with $55,299 spent or obligated. As referenced in earlier meetings, we have zeroed out our rent allocation and rent obligations for the year, so both of those are zeroed out. And just as a quick reminder, we are in mid-May, and these figures are accounted for with June 30th being the end of the fiscal year. So we are in good position with all of our numbers, and I continue to talk with Jesus, the district manager, about opportunities to spend money before it goes away on June 30th. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, I will go on mute.
Okay, thanks, Brian. And so we do have, since we already had the Borough President's report by Gail, we'll move on to committee reports and resolutions. So here's the fun part. And we are doing this virtual digital ballot. So I don't know, do you guys want to post that, or did you already put that in the links?
It's posted in the chat.
There it is. Okay, so if everyone can see that and download that.
There's also a tiny URL available. It's tinyurl.com/cb6ballot.
So everyone needs to have that open if you are able to. And if you're unable to, I'm hoping that a lot of us can just vote as we go and submit. And then so we will, move along, and as the resolutions come, we can discuss, and then we'll, the votes will be done by the end of the meeting. And at the second roll call, if you are unable to do this Airtable, we'll take your votes at the end with SEMA's roll call. So has everyone opened that up? I think a few people came on this afternoon.
I'm not seeing.
I can't
Yeah,
barely
I
read it.
can't open it on my iPad.
I can't open it either on the, so.
Okay, this was a test that failed.
I was able to open it on my iPhone, if that's any help.
I'm on my iPhone and I can't see it.
I opened it. You might have to double click it or press enter in the address.
Is this the, okay, I see it.
It's
Yeah, I
very
opened it.
simple. It's a very simple.
It's in the chat.
Yeah, it's in the
so
chat.
There's a tiny URL in the chat. So if anybody's having a problem getting the link opened, if you at the very least switch into your web browser, I will read the name of it.
Oh, I
open.
got it. Got it. Okay. It
Both
works.
are in. Oh, okay, you got it.
It works. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have
Yes.
a, Jesus, can you show it again? Because
Sure.
I can't get the chat.
Well, we'll just read you the tiny URL if you want to type it in. I've been putting it in the chat.
Or you can go to the chat and just hit the
I can't
hit the
go
hot
to the
link.
chat.
B can't
Oh,
go to
really?
the chat.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, let's read the tiny URL for folks who want to type it into their browser. It's tinyurl.com/CB6, the number 6, ballot. Again, that's tinyurl.com/CB number 6, ballot.
Kudos to Jesus and staff for coming up with this development.
It's really beautiful, but I hope we can all, if some folks can't download it, then that, if
Well
it's just
done.
Please,
I'm impressed.
it looks like people, since we're reading the URL for out loud, attendees, members of the public are now voting. Please, only board members vote.
Yeah.
We're only going to count votes from board members.
Okay, so shall we proceed, or what do you guys, any other questions there? We'll go slow.
You have to enter a vote for each item. You can't leave any blank or it won't let you submit it.
This is a test. It's only a test. So yeah, and it's pretty self-explanatory if you click on, again, like the first item. So the first item we have is an executive item authorizing the continuation of George Janes, who's our land use consulting services person, and he does a lot of our urban planning work and affordable housing work. So we budgeted, we have funding, and we wanted to be sure we allocated $20,000 to him. So you have these resolutions. I hope you've all have the resolutions actually separate. Okay, so so please, is there discussion or questions on this resolution? B? Oh, I thought I saw B there.
It was.
Any? Okay, Sandro? No. All right. Okay. I just see, yellow boxes light up. I'm like, is it you? Do you want to talk? All right. So hearing no discussions, let's vote on the 1A, authorizing the continuation of land use consulting services. So are you guys doing it? Is everyone voting?
So I can still vote, so can I put my hand up, yes?
Do you, Cody, do you want to keep track now, or do you want to do it at the end with SEMA? We could.
So SEMA's going to track anyone who doesn't submit a ballot digitally. SEMA will ask you for all of your votes when she does the second roll call. So she'll have a list of who's submitted their ballot digitally, and anyone who hasn't, she'll just ask you at the end.
Okay, B, you got that?
Yeah, I got that, but that's
Cool.
okay. I don't think that's
Sorry.
smart, but that's okay.
I know this is like, yeah, that was the thing I thought, if we have just, hopefully most
Yeah,
people
I don't
can
think
do
I
it.
have the capacity on my software here, but we'll work it out during the week.
Okay. All right, so, and then can you guys tell me if like you can't see that it's been voted on, so we'll.
Because
If we hear-
we're tabulating at the end.
Okay, but if we have no, I don't know how can I tell? I guess I'm just giving you like more 10 seconds more to
Well,
vote.
Not everyone has voted, so let them vote and then continue on. And then at the end, those who have not registered any votes will be called to give their votes.
Okay, I'll give each time we do this, I'll give about 10 seconds between. Right, so last time we did, just raising your hand if you oppose. So I don't know, this, this is, it's a very cool, ballot, but if it's
Reshma's
not,
asked if you hit submit each time you don't, you're submitting at the end because you can't go back in and submit your ballot. So.
okay, all right, so let's
Mark
move
your
on.
vote
Oh
for each
God,
resolution.
mess.
I know, sorry, well, this is, it's nice. I think it's a nice looking ballot, and if it works, we could get B up just, up to be able to do it on her iPad.
We're trying something. If it doesn't work, we'll try something else.
Yep. No other board is, everyone's doing it very differently, and they're all, anyway, it's all, very different, but, all right, so let's move on. Hopefully you've all voted
It looks
for
like
that.
Letty would like the floor.
Oh, Letty? Yes? Letty?
I said I lost the ballot. Now I can't find it. I'm doing it on iPhone, and I had it, and I don't know
Check
what's
the
going on
chat.
here.
Check the chat box.
Yeah, I did, and I went there.
Adjust
Okay, I
it.
see. And now I have a blank ballot.
I do believe we only have 5 resolutions. Is that or 6?
Yeah,
So
I have it here, so I have to add my name.
at the end, yes.
No, at the beginning. Don't I have to do it at the top?
The first item asks
Board
you
member,
to.
yeah, and
Oh.
I'm
Ask you to
pressing that
select your
now, and
name.
I'm not getting anything. Oh, here are the names. Okay, so I
To
have to
drop down.
scroll down.
Right. Sorry, I should walk through that with you better. Yeah,
I should have known better because I did
Nope.
this. I made it my business this afternoon. Let's see, Madam. So as here I am. So I do that. Oh. Okay, I'm there. Do I
okay.
have?
Let's
I'm
go
fine.
to
Now I have
parks.
to vote on the resume.
Oh,
Thank you.
yes. Okay, thank you. Okay,
Be quiet.
let's go to Pam Vassal, Chair of Parks, Landmarks, and Cultural Affairs.
Greetings, everybody. I'm going to ask Mark to do this since I was not at the meeting and he was the resolution guy. So he's better equipped to do this than I at the moment. Take it away, Mark.
Woo, okay, and if anybody wants to know where Pam was that evening, you can ask me. It was really good. And it was
Is the link, are you going to put the link in the chat?
I can't do that on my phone, but I'll send it around to anybody who wants to know. And it was awesome. My goddaughter was in hysterics. It was very, very good. So that's all I'll say. So Pam, you were wonderful. I love it. It was a comedy show. So yes. And we just, since we're Parks, Landmarks, and Cultural Affair, in honor of pop culture, you guys see my background. And I want to thank the office too for teaching us how to do, and Sandy and I last week, how to lead a Zoom meeting. So that's good. So last week we had a great Cool Kids Zoom. I would encourage all the new members to join the Cool Kids in the Parks, Landmarks, and Cultural Affairs Committee because we are the best. Just gonna say that. And everyone else is on mute, so you can't say anything. That's true. Adam Hartke did a great resolution. Thank you, Adam. There is one typo in here, and I would normally ask everyone to hunt for it, but I'll give it to you anyway, just so. That's too much time. So in the second whereas of this resolution, it says
First.
the first whereas, yeah, it says representatives from 405 Lex, the Chrysler Building, presented plans for the opening of a cocktail lounge. The word "of" is missing in there. So that was this Uber. So this basically is a resolution of no objection. The architects gave us a very, very thorough presentation. They plan to take the 61st and 62nd floors of the building and turn that into what will be the new Cloud Club. Previously, it was located a few floors above there. It'll be a restaurant, bar, cocktail lounge. There's really, what they're doing is just taking the two small terraces that are on the north and south side of the building, putting up glass protective walls around the outside, changing some windows and some sliding doors that have to come out to allow ADA access. It's not really visible from the street since it's 61 floors up and very kind of tucked away, but it's right above where the Eagles peek out the building. So this will allow people to go up there, hang out, sit there in the balcony, the patio area, and see the Eagles and the city. And I think they promised to let us have a board meeting up there, right? I think I heard that, but I'm
They
not
did
quite
say that. They were kind of laughing though, but
yeah, but so anyway, but it'll be cool, but it'll take a while to get done. So pretty straightforward. We drilled them down about safety and the glass and how it'd be attached to the building. It won't really be attached, so it's not damaging anything. They're doing a bit of restoration. It's all straightforward, so pretty clear. So that is the resolution.
any questions? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote on item 2A, certificate of appropriateness.
And since there was some confusion earlier, they should be not submitting their ballot till the very end. We've been seeing there's a little bit of confusion on that.
Are you guys submitting? Stop submitting. Stop it.
I did see someone voted twice, but I will fix it.
What? How does that happen?
It's that voter fraud I've been hearing about.
Yes.
So, Jesus, just to reiterate, we choose how we want to vote and we submit all of the votes at one time when we're done.
Yes, once you have voted on all the resolutions, once all the debate has happened, then it can.
Just submit once. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Larry has his hand raised, Molly?
Oh, yep. Larry?
Yes, this is a question for Mark. I should have raised my hand earlier. The Cloud Club, as it was originally constituted, was up on the top of the building. Do you know what happened to the amazing fixtures there?
They were gone the last time I was there. There was some stuff, but nothing really. It became an office. I don't know where they went though, but I can find out. I'll ask Lori. She'll probably know.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I wish I had them because they were really cool, but no. Yeah.
And so is there any other questions on the resolution? Is there a chair's report? Oh, you're on mute, Pam.
No, there isn't, except to say that I'm glad to see everybody and go to the parks website to see if there are any new things that are happening at the parks.
Pam, do you want to mention what the Community Board 6 people did to get a fence taken down?
Oh, why don't you mention that?
Oh, okay.
It was in our newsletter last week too, right?
It was.
Yeah. Once again, Community Board 6 comes to the rescue of the city of New York and its public spaces. Some of you may have seen the fence that was at the south end of the Con Ed Pier. That was the pier that we got done. Thank you. And the chain link fence was still there. It should have come down. It never came down, blah, blah, blah. But through consistent pressure and activism on behalf of CB6, the fence was taken down. Nobody had to clip it and shove it into the water, but it was removed. So now people actually can go from the park, all the way up the Esplanade onto the Con Edison Pier. So congratulations, CB6, and your activism. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love
and
it.
nobody's crashing into a fence or touching people when they shouldn't be touching people when they're sweaty and jogging or biking. Yeah.
It was the magic of Earth Day, Mark.
That's what it was. Yeah.
It's really nice. Okay, let's move on to Sandro Strad for land use.
Good evening, everyone. So we just had this one resolution
before you. This is for a transit easement at 609 2nd Avenue. This would be a extension of the subway platform that would be the 34th Street 2nd Avenue line in the future when it actually gets built and brought down to that part of the city. Any questions about it?
We don't see any hands raised unless.
Nope.
Okay. So we're voting on resolution 3A. No objection to transit easement at 609 2nd Avenue. All right. Do you have a chair's report, Sandro?
I just want to say I wanted to thank Sandy McKee, of course, for helping with the resolution. She did an excellent job. And where we had invited both EDC and a couple other agencies to actually come and give us an update on the projects. And we did not get a kind of thorough update yet, but we're hoping next meeting to actually have an update on the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project that's a little bit more in depth, as well as the East Midtown Greenway project. Right now, we're not knowing of any delays to the projects, to the timeline or the construction, but we wanted to kind of have a deeper dive into what's actually been happening from a coordination and administration perspective, as well as the actual timeline that, of course, will be impacted somewhat, and hopefully they can make up for that. Thank you. That's nothing further.
All right. Thank you, Sandro. All right. So moving on to Sandy McKee for transportation.
So we do have two resolutions. The first one is the Open Streets Plan in Community District 6. And actually we had some great recommendations this evening to add two more, Beekman Place and Sutton Place.
Right. Can we put that on the screen, the resolution, at least the locations?
Yep.
For
1 second, I'm pulling it up right now.
Thank you.
And I know the board has reached out to some of the local community groups to try and ask them to be the sponsors for these for the open streets. Right now, they basically are similar to play streets. And we're certainly hoping that we can have a different type of open street that allows more connectivity for some of the people who are looking for recreation space that links them up for longer runs, people who are looking for places to bicycle, teach their children how to ride a bike. There's all those kinds of things that don't necessarily happen in a play space. So we tried to address that in the resolution.
Yeah.
The list should be shared right now.
Yep. It's small on my screen. I don't know if people can see, but thank you.
Larry
yeah, that
has
was
his hand raised.
Oh, Larry.
Yes, there's an item here that we may want to reconsider. 16th Street between First Avenue and Nathan D. Perlman Place. That's where the emergency room bays are for Beth Israel Hospital.
Larry, if it's not appropriate, the DOT won't let us have it, but this will all be reviewed with the DOT.
Fine.
And yeah, I'm thrilled to hear Ben Kalos has some ideas for us. We have some schools that are interested, but we really do have a lack of bids and kind of bigger, more robust like neighborhood associations that some other neighborhoods have. So that's de Blasio's first announcement of these open streets were all all done through bids. So hopefully we can.
Molly?
Yeah.
Looks like, I'm not sure if Rick meant to raise his hand, but he toggled it for a second, and Pam has her hand raised as well.
Okay. Rick?
Nope. I was deciding, are the two additions being made formally part of this resolution?
I think we probably should. It would be great to add them.
Okay, one was in Sutton and one was in Gramercy.
Beekman Place.
And Sutton Place South.
Sutton Place South.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to amend the the resolution.
I'll second it.
Can I ask a question though about the Sutton Place South? What does it envision for Sutton Place South?
Well, all we're doing, with any of these, we reach out to the local community groups. Someone needs to actually sponsor the closure and be responsible for closing the street. So it would be, we would recommend this, but of course it's reviewed by the local community.
So would it be all of Sutton Place South or just a lane like on First Avenue? I'm just trying to get a sense of what's envisioned for it.
Right. Well, we could ask for either, actually. Some of these locations we've asked for just a lane closure. Some of them we've asked to just close down the street. And so it could be just one block. I'm not sure which is the most appropriate off the top of my head for this area, but we can ask for one block of Sutton Place South and one block of, or Beekman Place is actually a slightly different configuration.
Okay.
Was there another question?
Yeah, me.
Oh, Pam.
So can you hear me? Am I on? I think I am. Okay. So my question has to do with after this madness is over, it suggests that at the bottom, be it further resolved that this be kept in place. And, is that really true? I mean, that with street lane closures on Madison and Park Avenue, it's pretty congested there at those streets. So I'm a little confused.
Well, certainly at transportation, we've already asked the DOT to consider how we use our streets in a more global review of them. And using streets for pedestrians and for other modes of transportation is something we're advocating for. So Park Avenue, for instance, it gets closed down for several weekends in the summer, the whole street. But we're looking for one lane, just one lane.
And I think some folks would say that, there are already very wide sidewalks, especially 34th to 40th. Bob Cohen, our public member, has, sent a letter saying like, he opposes that because of the, there are already wide sidewalks there, but so maybe that's not, we'll see. I feel like there's a lot of space for cars on Park Avenue.
And partly Park Avenue, Park Avenue, we're looking for connectivity. CB8 has asked us to support them and looking for a closure of Park Avenue. So that's one of the reasons why that seems like a very important connection for all of the residents of this part of the city.
Letty has her hand raised and so does Jean.
Okay, Letty and then Jean.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 51st between 2nd and FDR. 51st ends at Sutton Place. And I think between First Avenue and Sutton Place, that's where it intersects with Beekman. They might check with the Beekman Place Association. And the same thing with 52nd between 2nd and FDR. That also ends at Beekman at a sort of a cul-de-sac. That's where River House and the Campanile are. And between First and Beekman, check with the Beekman Place Association because you don't want any feedback there.
And Letty, we actually discussed that and we put FDR because it just seemed weird to say cul-de-sac. So
okay, but it doesn't go to that's all that what I'm
understood. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But
yeah,
check with the Beekman Place Association with Dean Stefanidis because they ought to at least be informed.
Yep.
Ask the board to reach out to all the local community groups.
Yeah.
With our recommendations.
Oh, okay. And by the way, I can't vote because when I go on Airtable, if I try and access Zoom again, I lost Airtable, so I don't have a ballot.
Oh yeah, that's all right. We'll do it. It'll be quick at the end.
Thank you.
They'll figure it out. It's easy.
Thank you. Thank you. I will now go on mute and shut up. Thank you.
Larry. Oh no, I'm sorry, Jean.
Yeah, no, we look a lot alike. It's true.
Knock it off.
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce a couple of things that Sandy and also Molly said. One of the things that this reso is doing, I know something about it because I wrote it. is trying to prepare for the fact that we've already got an increase in cycling traffic. We've already got an increase in various kinds of e-mobility devices. Those things are going to continue to grow, not just through the summer, but from now on. We've been tracking it for a year, and it's happening. So we need to change the way our streets work. Our sidewalks are too narrow, except for isolated stretches of them. Under COVID and for months, starting from now, we're all going to be trying to maintain social distancing, as the Reso points out. This is impossible to do. I see people in the street every day, walking, jogging, because they're forced out into the street because they feel safer or more comfortable there. And this is trying to make provisions for that, as well as going forward, the fact that this is going to be a permanent change. The other side of it is defensive. Without congestion pricing, which has been temporarily postponed, let's say, due to political considerations. What we need to do is to make sure that as the city does reopen, that we are effectively defending ourselves from the same traffic levels that we had a year and a half ago, when there were 100,000 Ubers a day circling around Midtown. The air pollution, the traffic jams, everything else, traffic speeds were down to like 2 miles an hour. So this is partly a defensive move, partly a health move, and partly trying to figure out a way to look forward to the future.
Thanks, Gene. Any other questions, discussion? I can't see the hand, sorry, you guys. Nope. Okay, I guess please vote. And then Sandy, we have a resolution for the curbside EV charging pilot, the electric vehicle.
And thank you, Jean. Of course, that was a great reso, a lot of work into writing that. This next one, actually, Andrew wrote for us. So if there are any questions, he's going to be able to answer them. And it's something that we wanted to support within the committee. Again, both of these resolutions were unanimous support. Any questions, Andrew?
Hi, happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any.
Okay.
Seeing none? No?
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
So please vote on resolution 4B.
Sorry, can somebody just describe quickly what it is? It's an electric charging station?
Okay, so Molly, if it's okay, I'll.
Oh, please, yeah.
Okay, so basically this resolution is requesting DOT to include our district in a pilot program that is currently in the selection process, meaning that DOT is looking for locations across New York City. They're going to roll out about 50 units, 50 charging units that they will pay for. They'll be operated by Con Ed. Each unit has 2 chargers. So it's, again, 50 units is 100 charging ports. And what we're basically saying in this reso is that we would like our district included in the pilot so that we can get some unknown portion of these stations rolled out to us. And just I noted in the resolution that I think 2 other districts, I think it's 7 and 8, are already in the pilot. So we should not be left out.
And do people pay to charge their cars? Is it like
So you have to, the rate will be determined by Con Ed. It's basically just the city's installing, it's a pilot. It's 50 of these physical units. Just so we understand, they look kind of like the what do you call them, those Wi-Fi stations, the Link NYC kind of stations. There'll be 50 of them deployed around the city. People have to pay like they pay to fuel up their car at a gas station. So it's not like free electricity for your car. You pay to use the service.
Thank you.
And actually, DOT is going to come and give us some more information on this. And there's apparently also another system that we're going to look into as well. It's being developed. Has everybody voted?
I guess you could move on to your chair's report if while they're voting.
Okay. One thing we heard just today from the DOT that they're going to be installing protected bike lanes across town on 38th and 39th Street, which is great. Yeah, that's Molly's commute. And so it's another, way to get cross town while the subway's not as popular a method of transportation. So that's happening apparently in the next few weeks. That's going to be implemented. And yes, we'll continue to try and find people in the community who would like to have part of our street system utilized for play streets or recreation. So we'll continue to reach out. If anyone knows of a community group that would like to sponsor this, please forward the information to them or let Jesus and Cody know so that they can give them the full package so that they can make an application. And that's it.
Great, thanks, Andy. All right, Corinne for Housing, Homeless, and Human Rights.
Thank you, Molly. Not much to report. I just, like I had mentioned in the beginning of this meeting, we will be discussing all of the housing related proposed legislation on the federal, state, and city level. So if you want to get super wonky and be super informed, please attend our meeting next Monday. Thank you.
All right.
Rich has a hand.
Oh, Rich.
Sorry, just very quickly, Corinne reminded me, because she was with me when we did this, the bulbs that we planted at Bellevue South Park in October have come up. The park is locked, but you can see them from the gate if you look in like a hungry child.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Rick. Yeah,
that's awesome. All right, so let's see, Brian for ad hoc budget committee.
I need to find the unmute button real quick. We had our ad hoc budget meeting for May the other night. Our primary line of business was to discuss responses from city agencies about our submission for the fiscal year 2021 budget. While I'm talking about this, let me clarify where our timelines are. So right now we are in fiscal year 2020, which is pretty much planned, mostly spent, and almost done with. And that ends on June 30th. On June 31st, on July 1st, the new fiscal year starts, and that's considered fiscal year 2021 because it spills into the year 2021. In October of this past year, we submitted our district needs statement and budget priorities for the upcoming fiscal year. And sometime between now and the end of June, the council and the mayor will agree on what the budget is for the next year. And it's going to be a pretty critical budget because the city is already looking at a shortfall in tax revenue, and it's a pretty big shortfall considering the portion of city taxes that go toward discretionary budget. So one of the things that we're doing is we're looking at trying to talk to the city in any way possible about protecting expenses in our district for the fiscal year 2021 budget, even though we already submitted our priorities. We also did get responses back. The responses were, I would describe them as typical. Anybody who's spent time working with us on the budget committee knows that we ask for things. The things we usually ask for are things that are carried over and are being asked of agencies that don't have a lot of money. The responses are usually a mix of agencies being honest and telling us they don't have the money, or agencies giving us some sort of bizarre response and us having to follow up and play some sort of chasing the tail game to figure out who's ultimately responsible for something when it was probably who we asked in the first place. we review that. We put a lot of attention into it. We try to use that attention to also help our strategy and the ordering of our budget priorities in the future year. I also wanted to note that right now we are currently having the committee chairs and our budget committee think about and work on the submission for fiscal year 2022, which is in October of this year. It'll be due October 31st. So these numbers sound like they're way far off in the future, but this is the kind of stuff that we're always working on and moving things behind the scenes. So I just wanted to mention that nothing in particular came up in our meeting because we only got through the capital requests. We're going to talk about the expense items in June when we have a meeting then. Nothing came up in particular that we felt any specific attention needed to be paid to in the capital budget, other than the fact that we still always believe that high priority items should be funded. The expense budget will be a little more curious because we think that there might be clawbacks and cutbacks in expenses, and that we're going to have to try to watch out for that. I've also, I'm trying to gather more information about what has been announced about cuts. But like I said, the city did not announce a budget deal at this point, and the numbers are all in flux. So, we really have our work cut out for us. In the meantime, the way that our board is set up is that Molly, our chair, is empowered to be the voice of our board. And she can write letters, she can make statements on our behalf, she can delegate that authority, well, not authority, but she can delegate work of writing letters. And so Molly and I have been on an email thread and with a few other budget committee people to try to form some materials to get out ASAP about budget items. One of the things is normally when we would talk about things that the board has an opinion on, we would do a distinct resolution. We will talk about doing resolutions if we need to do such things, but at the moment, one thing that I've noted for everybody is that our budget process goes every year through the board, and we all talk about all these things. And we talk specifically about budget requests and expense requests and funding levels for things and staffing levels for things. I figure that at this point, anything that we have been talking about in recent years about wanting money to fund or wanting money to increase or keep at the same levels that they're at now, or anything that's been increased that we were happy with, that implicitly implies that we are happy with the current levels of funding, and that that the board empowers us to communicate to the city that the board approves of us essentially maintaining those levels and disapproves of any cuts on those levels. I don't have any resolutions or new business proposed for tonight to address any items that might fall out of that kind of spectrum of things that we've talked about. If anybody has any ideas, email me, email the office, email Molly. And we're just monitoring this situation. It's a really dynamic situation. It's incredibly in flux. The city does need to cut billions of dollars in budget off of discretionary items in the next fiscal year. And I would say that a lot of things that were already marginal are probably not going to get funded. And we just need to keep the focus and make sure that we make our case for this year. If things roll over, especially capital items, we make our case for the following year. And we just keep up the good fight on all this stuff. That's my report.
All right, thanks, Brian. All right, so let's move to Kyle from BASA, Business Activities and Street Affairs.
Molly, Yusuf would like the floor.
Oh, Yusuf, yep.
Yeah, just a quick question on the budget process. Would you say the focus of the ask or the priorities is significantly or dramatically in response to the COVID crisis, or do you think it's more of like we just want to advance previous priorities? And I guess the reason I ask is there's a ton of programming that the city is considering cutting that goes directly to the most vulnerable in the district, whether it's meals to seniors, whether it's employment programs over the summer for youth, et cetera, things that in the context of COVID are actually more precarious than non-COVID. So I don't know what the best way is for the board to get involved in surfacing those, what the priorities are, but that's something that is pretty frightening, and that I would love for us to kind of be actively engaged in.
I agree. What I was asking the budget committee is just to like really meet to talk about just a letter or somehow discuss what we can do now. Like what are the priorities, like just to have our voices be heard. And I think, so we'll write that letter, but I'd like the budget committee and maybe a smaller group from the budget. And if there are other people interested, we should, just a small group of 5 or 6 people, but to create just the, referencing our budget items, but also, even the summer youth program, which is not necessarily a big portion of our ask every year, and we don't use a lot of it, but we want to advocate for all these programs that'll affect the whole city. And I think it would behoove us to make sure that they understand we're passionate about these issues too, and we want to help. And the senior services, we need to mental health, healthcare. There are so many things, and housing. We need to be sure we have, even if it's a letter. Now we need to do that. I feel it's urgent, so we'll do that.
Yeah, we've asked for past increases and current increases on all the specific items we just talked about. And to answer another part of that question, nothing yet has come up that has been suggested to us that is an expense that is directly COVID related that we did not discuss in the past. Generally, we have always advocated for general issues regarding the public welfare, and that is our focus at the moment, unless we hear otherwise that the city needs to ramp something up that we haven't addressed previously.
Absolutely. All right. Anyone else? I see that Ossie is saying, remind people to submit their ballots now, since the resolutions we're all done voting. So if you've, type your name in down below and submit if you haven't done that already.
36 members have.
All right. All right. So we'll get that done in the next week. And if we could circulate that within the board. I'm not sure, but we'll get on that right away because it is urgent. All right. So moving on to John Keller from Health and Education.
Skipping Bassa? Or...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, go, Kyle. Sorry. Kyle Latai, Bassa. Moving us forward.
All right, good evening, everybody. Great to read. Well, it's very easy. So great to see everyone virtually. We didn't have a meeting last month. We canceled last month because we didn't get any applications in. But we will be meeting in May on the 28th just to discuss steps forward for our district. So I do have some things to report back. The first thing is, as you might remember, it was in March or April, we started the database of businesses that were open, the essential businesses, and now as businesses slowly start to open, a database of all of the businesses in the neighborhood that are open, that have adjusted times, that are delivering. And that was hugely successful. I think actually we might have been one of the first, if not the first, community board to actually publish something like that. And that went really, really well. So thank you everybody for participating in that and continuing to update that. I believe we have over 100 different businesses that are on that list that have been benefiting from that list as well. So continue to look at that, continue to purchase from that if you can. I've seen some of your social medias, and a lot of you have been ordering from that and posting up on that and tagging the businesses in it, which is really great, because that not only shows them support, but that also lets the rest of us know, like, hey, this is open. So please continue that great work. Other than that, for the meeting that's coming up, we've kind of heard about it a little bit from some of the elected officials that were present today, who are discussing their initiatives and the great work that they're doing as well. But there are a lot of different changes that might be coming. And as you all know, I love to be proactive rather than reactive. And a lot of the changes that might be coming up are businesses that are going to ask for longer hours, businesses that are going to ask for larger sidewalk cafes. And so we want to have a discussion on what we want this neighborhood to look like. With everything that's going on, it's very easy to make sort of reactive decisions, emotional decisions, but we got to remember that these can have long-term effects on what our neighborhood actually looks like. So we're going to have a discussion on how we want to move forward with that. In addition to that, with that discussion is going to be a proposal that is kind of being talked about closing off certain blocks, like we heard from transportation, and having businesses get space in the middle of the street while these streets are blocked down. So we want to discuss that as well, what that could possibly look like, what are the challenges to that, what are the drawbacks, what are the positives, of course. We're also going to talk about an economic recovery and relief plan that's been put forth, driven by the bids in our neighborhoods. So we want to discuss that and see how we can best support that. And with that, we're also in talks with Fred Cerullo, who's the head of Grand Central Partnership. And we're trying to get him to participate as well, to discuss what kind of needs and issues and support that they need from community board and how they're working with agencies and elected officials to get the help that they need. So it'll be jam-packed. I'll be reaching out to Transportation Committee after this as well to discuss, street closures and all of that, and get their expertise on it as well. So I encourage everybody to actually attend that meeting, because your input would be greatly appreciated and is necessary as we think about our neighborhood moving this. So that's what I have on that. And of course, as always, thank you to the board staff for their great help through all of this.
All right, questions for Kyle? So I know CB8 put out the questionnaire with Rob Burns from East Midtown. Are we, should we be sending that out? I mean, I wonder if you want to, I don't know if we have.
So for those who are unfamiliar, CB8 put together a wonderful survey that they're sending out to their community about basically what they want the neighborhood to kind of look like, or what, what needs that consumers and businesses have. I think we're going to discuss how exactly that would work for us. I don't think that I'm not completely satisfied with the way that the survey is structured, but it is something to think about that we'll discuss at our meeting as well. Does it make sense to have one just for consumers, just for businesses? Is this something that SBS will be leading? And obviously they have wider impact and sway to see what sort of policies are needed to move forward. So I'll share that at the committee meeting, so you can get a sense of what's being done around the city as well, and see what works for our district, or how we want to improve on things that are already out there. But at the very least, we would get these results from their survey from our partnership with the East Midtown Partnership and the other bids. But we can figure out things that make more sense for us and things that are high impact and get at the root issues.
Yeah, okay, I agree. Okay, good. Thank you, Kyle.
Looks like Yusuf would like the floor.
Oh, Yusuf?
Yeah, Kyle, real quick on the new the Airtable list of businesses that are now open. I think that's been really awesome. The folks at Beta NYC have started to do mapping of those lists by community board. So I'll follow up by email to make sure that we can get them mapped as well for folks who are kind of walking around the district.
Yeah, cool. I think I saw that for a couple of other districts. They had a little map, so yeah, we can get that done for us as well, just to have the visual.
That's great.
Thanks, Yusuf.
All right, thanks. All right, so John Keller, Health and Education Chair.
Yeah, hi. Just be brief. We're going to have a joint meeting with Housing, Homeless, and Human Rights on Monday night at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom. You're all welcome to come. There'll be three things on our agenda. There'll be a resolution related to the availability of Wi-Fi, especially for kids and students in temporary housing. And I think Corinne already mentioned that will be a discussion of emergency rent relief legislation. And we're going to talk about a resolution related to alternate sites for older children temporarily residing at the Children's Center at 492 First Avenue. That's been on the matter of discussion for the committee for some time. So I invite you all to the meeting, and nice to see you, and hope you're all staying well.
Good to see you, John. Thanks. Okay, any questions for John? All right, so Kavitha Matthew, Chair of 197A.
Hi, everybody. So I'll give a quick report just because we did not have a meeting this month. But we have been, some of us in the working group have been still meeting with our consultant about MSBI. Everything's kind of moving ahead with that. In fact, we're close to getting a draft of the final report in the next week, I believe. We'll be seeing that. And at that point, I'm trying to keep the working group informed of everything. We're just, trying to get all our stakeholders engaged and see if and how we can have any kind of leverage in the sale, and maybe try to work to connect the site that they're leaving with the downtown site that they're, the CB3 site that they seem to be more focused on. Outside of that, I just want to say that in our next meeting, I do want to refocus our attention on some of the other 197A issues. So, task force members, please. I know that an email went out today, again, a reminder from Jesus about street mappings. So if we can get your input on that, really appreciate it. Other than that, that's really all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
I was just going to comment that Katie Loeb from Councilmember Carlina's office, Rivera's office, was on today with you and the consulting team, and she was really, I don't know if she's still on the call, but
it was really helpful. It was very helpful to get that.
Great. Yeah. Oh, she is. Katie's here. Yeah, she was. That was really.
That was
You were fantastic. Thank you so much for all your input. It was really good.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it was great to talk. Very excited about the plan. And I'm going to set you up on an email with Anthony from CB3 tomorrow.
Perfect.
Great.
It looks like
All right.
Ann Seligman would like the floor.
Ann, you're on mute.
Actually, yeah, I'd like to raise something under old new business.
Oh.
So not so much for Kavitha.
Okay, anything for Kavitha? Okay, let's move into old and new business. And Ann Seligman, do you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I was really struck by the idea that we're like looking for ways to spend money right now. I put something about this in the chat, which I know was inappropriate, and I don't know what the limitations are in spending this in more direct ways in our own district. But I just really hate the idea of, it's like Alabama tried to put money in for a new state house in the plan. And I don't want to do that on even a small level. So whatever. I don't.
Are you talking about the consultant or
no.
Our guy?
He has been fantastic and
Yes.
offers enormous value. No, I was talking about what Brian mentioned about, we have this much left and we're kind of looking for ways to spend it. And it's like, if you have to look, maybe, we shouldn't, right? Like right now. So I just kind of want to throw that out. If I'm the only one that feels that way, I will like shut up and, that's the end of it. But if I'm not,
I wanted to add some clarification to this because it's been. Someone's got
mute. Somebody mute. Aussie has her hand up. So
okay.
wait.
So no, I just wanted to really quickly address like kind of how this is working. So first of all, if we have any unused budget money at the end of the year, and every year we have like a very small pool left of it, it goes back to the city for the city to do whatever it wants with. It can just goes in the city's general fund and can be used on virtually any agency or whatever. And we have no power over how it's used. The money that is given to us at the beginning of the year is given to us for us to use on the board office in the interest of advancing the causes of the board residents. So we should make sure that we do the best we can for the office with the money we have available before we just throw the money back at the city. What control we do have over the money, we are limited to things that have to be appropriate for a city agency to spend for their office, and it has to be done through city vendors that are approved by the city. So that does kind of give us a little bit of overhead. We do have some expenses in the pipeline. A fair amount of the money should be spent by the end of the year, but we're looking at some complications with deliveries and whether the office will be open. And we'll be looking to OMB for advice for that. It's a really complex situation. if we do have money to give, it will not pay for anything on our district needs statement or our budget priorities. It won't even come close to that. It's not enough to fund a capital request. I wish I had a better answer for you, but we can't just give the money to a charity. We don't have a cause or an opportunity to pledge money for a cause.
No, I wasn't suggesting that. I understand there are limitations on it, but you know.
That's to answer other people's suggestions, but yeah, I mean, the most virtuous thing we could do is focus on what our needs are, try to take care of ourselves before the end of the fiscal year, and just understand that we have so much money in street fair funds that we can use later on in case we actually do come up with something after the end of the fiscal year that we consider to be an important expense. But right now we're committing funding to things that are important for the board and will be important for the future. And we're working our way through it, and we want to be as transparent as possible. But there's a lot that we can't do with the
Okay.
city dedicated funds.
Okay, let's move the agenda, you guys. It's
Molly,
I
there
have.
are three members who would
Oh
like
boy.
the
Okay.
floor.
All right.
Oh, Kyle's hand went down, so maybe not anymore.
Sorry, because I rolled my eye. I didn't mean to roll my
I
eyes.
know. Sorry.
Asia
I just
and
wanted,
Martin.
you know, Brian did a really excellent job explaining this. I wanted to say just, I think the idea is if there are things that we see that will be a need for the board within 3 months or 6 months, if we can buy or purchase that now, we could very likely have a smaller budget next year. And this way it'll help buy things like printer ink. I don't know, things like that. And that's all frequently done by nonprofits and government agencies, especially when you're in situations when you're running on a fiscal budget, but your annual needs may be different. So that's all.
We are getting a copier.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Was there another question,
Marty Barrett.
Marty?
Yeah, also in regards to having some cash towards the end of the fiscal period. Over the years, there were many years that we've had cuts, and it took us a long time and a lot of effort to get our budget increased by allowing any cash to go back to the city. The city will then come with the understanding that we just don't need the money, and invariably we will. So however best to use it, we should use it. Once upon a time, it was put into postage,
right,
because prior to the internet.
I think we still have a lot of postage left.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we would probably still
Yes,
do.
we do.
But,
we have a few ideas. No, don't worry.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Kyle.
Oh, Kyle. All right.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I was just gonna basically say the same thing that Brian and Marty were saying about a budget surplus. And then my suggestion would just be obviously trying to go paperless and maybe get more iPads, but that can.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other old or new business? Okay, so hopefully everyone submitted their, if you were able to submit your ballot, you submitted a ballot. Seema, are you able to take the roll call? You had some connectivity. Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I made a mistake on my ballot after I realized it after I had submitted it. I've corrected it as a single item. I don't know if that's going to screw anything up or not. But
well, I think Cody can take a look. So as we go
Okay.
through the roll call, they can take a quick look.
All right.
When we get to Jim, just say the correction and we'll update it
Okay.
accordingly.
Right.
Okay, good. Okay, so Seema's will take the second roll call.
Yes.
So guys, if you have not submitted your ballot, you can do so now. And if you're unable to use the digital ballot, not a problem. I'll ask you for your vote on each of tonight's resolutions as I'm calling your name. Kyle, looks like you submitted.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great, thank you. Asia, you're good?
Here, yes.
Martin Barrett,
Fine.
great. LV Barroso, thanks, you submitted. Joan Berenbaum? Here. Thank you. Matt Bondi, you submitted. Are you here?
Yes, thank you.
Claire Brennan?
Here and submitted.
Thank you. Jim Collins, looks like you're here and you submitted.
Yes.
Dan Devine, making sure
Wait.
you're not here.
Seema, Jim had a correction. he
Yeah,
wanted to
Cody.
make.
Cody. The only change was the proposal in transport to have to put in an electric car facility.
Okay, and you,
And I'm against that.
oh yeah, that is what you wrote the first time. So
Oh,
you're
okay,
good.
that's what I thought. All right. Okay.
All
Be nice if
right.
we could print that out or get a screen grab.
I
All
can
right,
send,
so-
it'll go
sorry.
in the minutes from
All right.
this meeting.
Thank you.
Sorry, Beatrice, would you want to share with
So
me? your-
So it is yes on each one of them?
Okay.
All right, 1 second, let me record that. All right, you're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeannie D'Onofrio?
I submitted
Okay.
it on here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Richard Eggers? Think you are here and you've submitted. I see you've submitted. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Charles Fernandez, would you like to share with us your votes on the different resolutions? I'm happy to kind of, tell you shorthand what they might be if you need a reminder.
Is Charles still on the call? Charles?
Yes.
Hi, Charles. Would you like to share your votes for the various resolutions verbally so we can record them?
Well, I'm voting for it. And all the resolutions are good that I brought
Okay.
up.
All right, let me record
Wonderful.
that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's no problem. They're all good resolutions.
No pressure.
All right, I've got
I'm
that.
new at this, so
Okay.
I'm new at this. Please be patient with me. Okay.
We're new at this too.
We're
so
all,
that-
yeah, exactly. All right, Andrew Gross, seems like you've submitted and you're here, correct?
Yep, here, thank you.
Adam Hartke submitted and you're here.
Correct.
Molly Hollis. Paige, would you like to share your votes on the various resolutions? I don't think you've submitted your response yet.
Someone unmute Paige.
Hello?
Oh, there she is.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Yes to everything.
All right, 1
Great,
second.
thank you. Yusuf Khalid, I think you've submitted and you're here.
Yep, thanks.
John Keller, I think you've submitted and you're
Submitted
here.
in here.
Kathleen Kelly submitted and here. Abigail Cruzmark submitted and here. Anton Malner submitted and here.
Yep.
Kavita Matthew submitted and here.
Now you're just doing the roll call, Seema. You're not even letting them just say here.
Well, I'm
I'm
am
teasing you. I'm
pausing.
teasing you.
I'm pausing. No one's jumping in, so.
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. Sandra McKee?
Here.
Submitted? Okay. Wells
I have.
McGully?
Here, submitted.
Thanks. Richard Mintz?
Here submitted.
Thank you. Karen Moore, just making sure you are not here. All right. Philip Napolitano?
Yes, I'm here and I submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Rajesh Nair?
Submitted and here.
Kevin O'Keefe?
Here and submitted.
Great. Reshma Patel?
Here and submitted.
Matthew Roberts?
Here and submitted.
Jean Santoro?
Yeah, I'm virtually here.
Okay.
And I did submit 3 times, actually. I followed Mayor Daley's advice and voted early and
You
often.
did submit 3 times.
That's okay. Thompson's going to vote for the entire Brady bunch.
Oh, Brady Bunch. Dallas.
All right. Frank Scala?
He's absent.
Yes. Lauren Scher?
Here and submitted.
Great. Ann Seligman?
Here and submitted.
Great. Lou Sapersky, I believe, is absent. I'm here. I've submitted. Sean Sherman?
Here and submitted.
Thanks. Sandra Sherrod?
Present and submitted.
Letty Simon?
Present and submitted.
Thank you. Madeline Sims?
Yep, here and submitted. Thanks.
Thanks. Susan Steinberg?
Here and submitted.
Great. Anju Suresh?
Here and submitted.
And Mark Thompson, you have not submitted. Would you like to share your votes on the various resolutions?
Okay, yes on all.
Okay,
I'm here.
One
Great.
second, and I'll add Mark.
and Corinne, I think you're here and submitted, correct?
Yes.
Brian,
Here and submit.
Pam Vassal?
I'm here and you should have my votes.
Yes, we do. Ronnie White?
Here and submitted.
Great, and Claude Winfield?
I'm here and I've been committed.
A toast to that, Claude.
Finally.
So we had almost 90% of members manage to submit it. Not bad.
Woot woot. All right.
And I've, Seema, I've put everything in the totaler so you can read the vote totals.
Ooh.
So what does everyone think? Is that an okay system? I mean, we need to figure out a few people that the technology isn't working.
Very good.
I like it.
I feel like
The
it's
only
pretty
thing I would
Great.
say is that the voting link should be distributed confidentially.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
It otherwise seems like a great system as long as you can click the link. And Zoom is really difficult with that. So.
Well, we need to get these. We need to get a few people. Like if they are using their phones and if or iPads, how we can let them use it. So
Sandra's
okay,
gonna
good.
come fix mine for me.
Okay, good. All right. So
Motion to adjourn.
so we are
Wanna
adjourning, you
read
guys.
the totals?
Hey,
Call the vote.
I can share the
Turn.
totals.
I don't think we need to call. Do we need to?
Yes, we parliamentarily.
the
we should.
results of the votes.
Okay. Wait. We have to call the
Everything-
vote. Okay. So what's the?
So,
They all
so
pass.
for total, for resolution 1A, 45 in favor and 1 abstained. For resolution 2A, 46 in favor, so that's everyone. Resolution 3A, 44 in favor, 1 against, and 1 abstention. Resolution 4A, 44 in favor, 1 against, and 1 not entitled. And resolution 4B, 44 in favor, 1 against, and 1 abstention.
Okay. And Sandro, what did you just say?
Nothing.
You said motion to adjourn.
I did say motion to
I
adjourn.
second the motion. to
Sandro's
adjourn.
seconding me right now.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Welcome new
Good
members.
night.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone, stay safe.
Stay safe, everyone.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.